031 Shocking scene. Seeing Lin Hao's expression, Noelle lowered her head and said softly, "Well, I told you just now, I can't control my magic power." "Oh." Lin Hao sighed deeply, and then continued, "Forget it, let's stand 3 people on a magic broom." As he spoke, Lin Hao began to control the magic broom, and slowly floated in front of him. The next moment, Lin Hao raised his feet and stood up. "Come up. Say yes first. I won't guarantee your safety when flying," Lin Hao ordered. Although the two of them were a little scared, they had no choice but to bite the bullet and stand on Lin Hao's magic broom. And at this moment, Suashi Village. Hill. 4 men are standing, 3 of them are wearing blue capes and hats. The other has gray hair, a long scar on his face, a sallow complexion, and dull eyes, and his name is Sith. They quietly looked at Suashi Village, which had been reduced to ashes. "Damn it. Where is the magic stone?" Sith frowned. "They have turned the village upside down, but they just haven't found the whereabouts of the magic stone." "Could it be that the magic stone isn't here at all?" said one of the cloaked men. "That's right. We've turned this village upside down, and we haven't found the whereabouts of the magic stone yet," another man in the cloak said. Sith didn't speak, just stared at the stopwatch in his hand. After a long time, above the sky, there was a loud noise. "Don't move around. You 2 bastards." Lin Hao grabbed the front end of the broom with both hands and cursed. "I don't want to either. But you broom, go around in circles." Asta's face was livid. "Ah." Noelle felt like her soul was about to come out. "If you didn't move around, my broom would spin in circles," Lin Hao complained. Originally, at the beginning, it was flying well, but who knew that the 2 things behind moved a bit and fell down? If they fell, Lin Hao wasn't so angry yet, but who knew, they had too much desire to survive, so they grabbed Lin Hao's legs directly. Then, I panicked, the magic broom lost control, and everyone grabbed the broom and turned around. "No, I'm going to vomit," Noelle said in a deep voice. I can't hold on anymore." Asta now felt that his whole body was dehydrated. Boom. The magic broom hit a tree and all 3 fell to the ground. Lin Hao stood up and frowned, "You 2 bloody bastards." Al and Asta vomited aside. Crack. Asta lay directly on the ground, panting heavily. This time, it is estimated that Noelle and Asta have grown up and encountered the most exciting things. "Where is this?" Lin Hao looked around and couldn't help asking. Let me go first," Noelle spat out after finishing speaking. After a while, the 2 of them came to their senses. After Noelle glanced around, her expression changed. "Where is this?" With the 2 of them, Lin Hao felt that he was going crazy, and it was more tiring than a fight. "Are we lost?" Asta said from the side. "Take me to a high place to see." "You can see far from a high place," Noelle said softly. After an unknown period of time, Lin Hao turned dizzy and finally arrived at Suashi Village. But at this time, Suashi Village had turned into a pitch-black ruin, which was shocking at first glance. Is this really Suashi Village?" Noelle's face became more and more ugly. "Who the hell is this twisted heart?" Asta said with a stiff face. Lin Hao frowned and continued walking forward. After walking for a while, Lin Hao saw the scene in front of him. His pupils shrank violently, and his head was cold from head to toe. Because in front of him, there was a pile of white bones, and there were still some unburned, black things stuck to the bones. "Huh." Lin Hao couldn't help but gasped. "It's so cruel." Noelle didn't dare to look at it. "How much hatred does it have to be able to do this?" Lin Hao said in a deep voice. "It's simply not made by humans." Seeing this pile of bones, Asta's heart immediately collapsed. Suddenly, at this moment, behind Lin Hao and the others, a silver halo appeared, followed by Sith walking out with 3 men in cloaks. After hearing the movement, Lin Hao turned around immediately. "A member of the Black Burst Cattle Knights?" Sith glanced at Lin Hao and the 3 of them, and said calmly. You did it?" Lin Hao asked. "A group of useless people, why keep them?" Sith said expressionlessly. 032 Ice Magic vs Frozen Fruit, why did you do such a distorted thing? Who are you guys? After Asta heard his words, his veins became erect immediately, and his whole body trembled involuntarily. He trembled not because he was afraid, but because his actions were too cruel. Slaughter the whole village and burn it to such a state, you are simply inhuman. Noelle stared at Sith, as if she wanted to bring him to justice immediately. But for Asta's verbal attacks, Sith didn't take it seriously at all, and still looked at the three of them with a blank expression. Immediately afterwards, he cast his eyes on his stopwatch, and said in a deep voice, "The Black Burst Cattle Knights, among the Magic Knights, are also extremely conspicuous, vulgar, evil heretics. It's a waste of time to use you as opponents. Within 5 minutes, I will let you be buried with these ignorant and useless villagers." "Yes." The cloakman next to him nodded. But Lin Hao and the others, after hearing this, quickly prepared for the battle, and grimoire floated in front of them. And at this moment, Sith's grimoire, glowing blue, also floated in front of him. Immediately afterwards, he slowly raised his hand, and dozens of ice thorns suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Just then, one of the cloaked men, grimoire, started flipping a few pages. A huge layer of fog formed a vortex, surrounding Lin Hao and the others. Ice-fog combination magic, infinite ice particle cage. Sith said in a deep voice. In the thick white mist, shwa shwa shwa, ice spikes appeared. Hush! The next moment, these ice thorns pierced towards the three of them. What? Asta roared angrily, drew out his big knife, and made several bang bang bangs. Then these ice thorns were blown away. Ziston was stunned for a moment, and said softly, "This guy, not only can he cut and slash, but he can also reflect magic. But you can't beat me with this alone. I can make ice blades continuously, and see how far you can last, when." After all, Sith stretched out his hand again, and immediately after, in midair, countless ice thorns appeared again. Shhhhhhhh. The next moment, it shot down like a sharp arrow. Yeah. Asta kept waving the long sword in his hand to block the ice thorns. At this time, Lin Hao also activated the ability of freezing fruit to create ice thorns, and collided with Sith's ice thorns. Dang dang dang. The icicles collided with the icicles, and immediately became slag. "Oh, is there someone here who uses ice magic like me?" Sith raised his mouth slightly, as if he had a lot of interest. "Asta, Noelle, I will leave the last three to you, and let me do the leading one," Lin Hao said calmly. "Be careful yourself," Noelle instructed. "Understood." Lin Hao nodded. The next moment, a layer of ice quickly froze the surrounding area on the ground. Seeing the ice on the ground, Sith quickly moved towards him and subconsciously avoided it. And a cloaked man in the back was frozen without paying attention. In the blink of an eye, the originally pitch-black ruins were suddenly covered with a layer of ice. "Damn it, it's frozen." The cloaked man looked at his teammates and frowned. The next moment, he wanted to smash the ice and rescue his teammates. But at the moment he dropped it. Dangling, dangling. The iceman directly turned into a pile of ice slag. What's going on here? It's like, the moves of Master Sith. This kid doesn't look simple. Sith frowned, and then said to his subordinates, "Leave this to me, and the remaining two, you take care of it." "Yes, Lord Sith." As soon as the remaining two cloaked men finished speaking, they rushed towards Asta and Noelle. "Everyone is also ice magic. I want to see if yours is stronger or mine." As soon as Sith finished speaking, he waved his hand, and grimoire flipped. Immediately afterwards, in front of him, a huge ice cube appeared out of thin air. Shwa. It hit Lin Hao directly. Lin Hao elementalized ahead of time, and the ice cube crashed on a pile of ruins with a bang, and countless ice slags splashed up. Then it fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Ka ka ka. A pile of ice cubes followed and slowly turned into a human form. Seeing this scene, Sith raised his eyebrows slightly, and behind Lin Hao, a few pieces of ice slowly floated. The next moment, he directly clung to Lin Hao's body with the fastest speed. Immediately afterwards, Lin Hao was frozen. "Although your ice magic may be very powerful, you are still too careless." Sith shook his head slightly disappointed. "What's too careless?" Lin Hao walked out of the freezing. It seemed that what was frozen on his body was not ice at all, but air. Seeing this scene, Sith was taken aback immediately. What's going on? Aren't you frozen? Frozen? How naive are you? Everyone uses ice. If you are frozen, where will you put your face? Lin Hao raised his mouth slightly. 033 Ice Burial. Everyone please vote for the author. After all, the unpopular show is rarely watched. Even if you can't be frozen, it's too early for you to be happy, because winning or losing hasn't been decided yet. Sith said coldly. The next moment, his grimoire flipped again, followed by the sound of clicking. A bunch of huge ice thorns appeared out of thin air in front of Sith. Immediately afterwards, the ice thorns quickly spread towards Lin Hao. For this kind of attack, Lin Hao didn't dodge either. No, it should be said that there was no need to dodge. I saw Lin Hao raised his right arm in the direction of Sith. White gas came out of his body, followed closely. Swipe. In front of Lin Hao, a bunch of huge icicles also appeared, and quickly charged towards Sith's icicles. There was a boom. Two piles of huge ice thorns collided, and the ground began to shake. Immediately afterwards, large and small ice slags flew everywhere. Boom. Boom. After hearing this movement, Asta couldn't help but stop the fighting in the hands of the two cloaked men. This is Lord Sith's move. Unexpectedly, since that guy can compete with Lord Sith. Of course, Lin Hao is very powerful. Your shitty Sith will never be his opponent. Just accept the trial, you perverted scum. Asta roared. Is this Lin Hao's strength? Damn it, he clearly realizes that he doesn't have such powerful magic power, yet he can release such powerful moves. Noelle thought secretly. This guy obviously doesn't have any strong magic power from him, but he can release such a powerful move even with grimoire. Sith was confused in his mind at the moment. With his rich combat experience, he couldn't figure out what was going on at this moment. That's right. You're very good at it. Sith said, casting his eyes on the two cloaked men. Immediately, his face became stiff. Because, the one that was frozen by Lin Hao just now used space magic. That's the one that sent the Sith here. Now, even if he wants to leave, he can only fly away with a magic broom. Lin Hao sneered and said, that's the way to go. The previous ones are just warm-ups before the battle. Warm-up. Sith was a little dubious, because from the very beginning, he didn't see Lin Hao using grimoire, so there was a great possibility that he was really warming up earlier. Lin Hao didn't answer. At this moment, more white gas came out of his body. Half of his body was already covered with a layer of ice shavings. Immediately afterwards, he let out a breath of cold air and said, Ice Burial. The voice just fell. A powerful airflow rushed towards Sith, and wherever the airflow passed, it must be frozen. The ground that was already frozen was added another layer at this moment. Moreover, the speed of the airflow is too fast. Sith didn't have time to make moves at all. In the blink of an eye, he had already become an iceman, with a clang. His grimoire fell directly on the ice. Obviously, his grimoire was frozen. The scale of this move was huge. In front of Lin Hao, everything within a kilometer was frozen. 1 kilometer is now the limit of Lin Hao. Call. From Lin Hao's mouth and nose, he spewed cold air continuously. As expected, the limit is like this. Lin Hao muttered, and then walked towards the Iceman of the Sith. You probably never thought that you would die of freezing one day. Lin Hao sneered and patted Sith on the shoulder. Crack. The entire shoulder fell off directly. Suddenly, at this moment, a voice came over. Master Sith. Sith Lord, since he has been defeated. Undoubtedly, it was the two cloaked men who spoke. When Asta and Noelle saw that everything behind Sith had turned into ice, both of them couldn't help being touched. Is this what Lin Hao did? Noelle's face was very stiff. It's so scary. Asta inexplicably felt a chill from his head to his feet. Let's retreat, people who can't even beat Lord Sith, we can only die if we stay. The other men nodded. But just when they were about to evacuate, Asta struck down with a sword. Puffed. One of the cloaked men immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and fell to the ground with a bang. Damn it. Another cloaked man flipped open the grimoire, ready to attack Asta. But at this moment, with a schwa, it was frozen directly. The sudden freezing startled Asta on the side. 034 Magic Stone subconsciously took a few steps back, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the scene in front of him clearly. Have you solved everything over there? Lin Hao asked curiously as he walked towards him. With a bang, Asta stuck the pitch-black long sword on the ground, and said, "N." When Lin Hao walked to Asta's side, Noelle couldn't help asking. Lin Hao, did you do all of these? What Noelle was referring to was naturally the icy and snowy scene in front of her. After all, the scale is a bit big, so it is inevitable that Noelle will be shocked. Lin Hao nodded, glanced at the dying men in the cloak on the ground, and said, "Who are you?" The man in the cloak had blood on his lips, and after hearing what Lin Hao said, he laughed. Want to know? Dream. Lin Hao's expression changed for the men in the cloak, and he followed closely, squatting down slowly. He stretched out a finger and touched his body. Zizizi. A layer of ice immediately covered half of Lin Hao's body. You still have a chance to reorganize the language. Lin Hao said coldly. The extreme cold made the men in the cloak feel pain, and this pain gradually spread throughout his body. Do you think I look like the kind of person who would betray his teammates? The corners of the cloaked man's mouth trembled. That's fine. I'll send you to meet your teammates right away. Lin Hao didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, and let out a breath of cold air from his mouth. Immediately, he was directly frozen. Is he dead? Asta asked from the side. Yeah. Lin Hao nodded. Ah. Why did you kill him and bring him back to the Four-Leaf Clover Kingdom? Asta asked. Ah. You tell me how to take it back. How you go back yourself is still a mystery. Lin Hao said slowly. In Asta's mind, the scene of his coming suddenly appeared. Involuntarily swallowed his saliva. Lin Hao, you don't want us to find a way to go back, do you? Noelle on the side also panicked. After all, she is very poor at controlling magic power, and it is impossible to control a magic broom. I don't want to experience the feeling when I came here once. Lin Hao spread his hands with a helpless expression. Indeed, let alone throwing up in circles, if Lin Hao hadn't suppressed it with magic, he would have been throwing up just like Noelle and the others. I don't care about you, you brought me here, so you have to take me there. Humph. Noelle folded her hands on her chest, with a natural expression. However, there is one fact that Noelle has to admit. Although Lin Hao is a commoner and doesn't like to get in touch with others, he is a very powerful guy. At this moment, Asta suddenly jumped up. The eyes of Lin Hao and Noelle immediately cast their gazes on him. What happened? Seeing him bouncing around, Lin Hao couldn't help becoming vigilant. There's something behind me that's coming out, Asta yelled. As soon as he finished speaking, a bird came out from behind his clothes. This kind of bird is exactly the kind of repellent bird that Lin Hao took during the exam. After getting out, the repelling bird flew into the sky, and after a while, it landed on a dark building. While yelling clack clack, he pecked at the building on his feet. After Lin Hao hesitated for a while, he said in a deep voice, "Is this bird trying to tell us something?" The other two froze for a moment and shook their heads. Go and have a look. Asta said, then stepped towards the repelling bird, and Lin Hao and the others followed. When Asta approached, the repelling bird flew up and landed on Asta's head. Squat down. Asta, move away to see if there is anything inside. Lin Hao stopped and shouted. Asta nodded, holding the long sword in his hand, tilted the building up, and followed closely. Only the ground came into view, and there was nothing at all. Nothing. Asta stood up and said softly. Lin Hao was taken aback. Could it be that we made a mistake? Where is the bird? Is it purely a coincidence? Thinking about it, Lin Hao walked to Asta's side. Looking at the ground he just pried open. Sure enough, there was really nothing but the floor. Cackling. The repelling bird kept pecking at Asta's head. Asta suddenly became irritable, reaching out to grab the repelling bird. Clap clap. The repelling bird flapped its wings, flew up, and fell to the ground. Immediately afterwards, he pecked the ground again, as if he wanted to tell Lin Hao what they were doing. Asta, break the ground with your sword. Lin Hao said calmly. Asta nodded, raised the sword in his hand, and slashed down with one blow. There was a bang. A tile on the ground collapsed directly. Empty. The three were slightly taken aback, and poked their heads over. There seems to be something very valuable inside, Asta said. Lin Hao squatted down, stretched out his hand to remove the crumbs of forehead porcelain that fell on it, and then picked up the glowing thing. It was a pink stone with a faint glow. What is this? Noelle asked from the side. It looks like it's worth a lot, Asta said softly. Lin Hao shook his head slightly. He didn't know what it was. Take it back, and ask the team leader. 035 Lin Hao's luck. Holding this strange stone, Lin Hao manipulated the magic broom and headed back towards the four-leaf clover kingdom. Of course, this time, it was different from when we came here. Lin Hao made a tree net with magic and tied it to the broom, and then Asta and Noelle sat on the tree net. Let them continue to stand on the magic broom. Lin Hao doesn't have the guts anymore. He has already suffered a lot when he came here, and he doesn't want to suffer again. After Lin Hao left for a long time. On the edge of Suashi village, a silver halo suddenly appeared. Immediately afterwards, a mysterious man walked out from inside, but on his shoulders was the cloak of the Knights of the Golden Dawn. At this time, he was wearing a hat, looking at the ice and snow in front of him. Is this Sith's magic? The mysterious man froze for a moment, but the next moment, he vetoed his words. No, that Sith guy's magic isn't that powerful. Could it be someone from another Knight Order? The mysterious man hesitated for a moment, and then said again, to be able to freeze on such a large scale, the magic level is definitely the strength of the deputy leader. But the deputy leader of the Knight Order is ice magic. At this point, the mysterious man couldn't figure it out. Black Bull Stronghold. A burst of laughter suddenly came from inside the castle. You guys are really in a mess. After Yami finished speaking, he couldn't stop laughing. No way, one of them has no magic power, and although the other has it, it's almost as good as none. Lin Hao said helplessly. Noelle curled her lips and said, I said earlier that I can't control my magic power, and you said it's okay. Lin Hao's face was stiff, and he said, who knew you couldn't even control the magic broom? Before, Lin Hao purely thought that Noelle's magic power was not well controlled during the battle. Who knew, even the most basic magic broom could not be controlled well. Seeing Lin Hao arguing with Noelle, Yami couldn't help laughing again. By the way, Yami, leader, in Suashi village, we also found a strange stone. Lin Hao stopped arguing and got to the point. Strange stone. Yami hesitated for a while, then continued, where is it? What about here? Asta took out the weird stone and handed it to Yami. After Yami took it, he looked it over carefully, and then frowned. This is the magic stone. Magic stone. Everyone was startled and looked at Yami. Yami nodded and said, yes, now, I finally know what their motives are. The enemy should be trying to get this magic stone, but the villagers didn't reveal it. Later, the enemy slaughtered all the villagers. Where did you find this quick rock? It's hidden under a floor tile. If it weren't for the repelling bird on Asta's head, we probably wouldn't have found it. Lin Hao told Yami what happened. Well done, you bastards. Yami let out a satisfied smile. Yes. Captain Yami. The three of Asta said in unison. After that, Yami took out 3 bags of money from his waist and handed them to Lin Hao and the 3 of them. Asta quickly opened it, and suddenly, his eyes burst into light, and exclaimed, wow. There are 200,000 yules. Thank you, leader. Okay, tomorrow is a day off, you guys have a good rest. The rest of the time, you don't need to interfere, and someone will take care of it. Yami stood up, left after leaving a word. Of course, for this day, Lin Hao did not intend to rest, but to practice. After all, Lin Hao felt that his frozen fruit and magic had reached a satisfactory stage. And this body of his own is indeed a bit too far-fetched. The next day, almost all of them were out. Lin Hao. Aren't you going shopping? Luck, who was sitting on the sofa, asked. Luck, whose full name is Luck of Volscia, has been growing stronger since he was a child to please his mother. He has a fighting power that is not inferior to that of nobles and a super magic sensory ability. He also has a name, Smiling Battle Maniac. No, I'm not very interested in that kind of thing. Lin Hao said slowly. Lin Hao, I heard from Magna that you are very good. Hey, how about fighting with me? Luck said, walked to Lin Hao's side, and waved his fist. Luck is not tall, about as tall as Asta. Lin Hao frowned, as if he had heard Luck say the most. Let's have a fight. Do you like fighting? Let's fight with me, and so on. Okay. Lin Hao. Luck looked at Lin Hao expectantly. Lin Hao sighed and said, all right. 036 Runaway Luck. Behind the castle is the stronghold of the Black Burst Knights. There is a vast and flat land. According to Yami, he once wanted to build a castle there. But after the number of members decreases, it will not be built. It is the most suitable place to use it for fighting. At this time, both Luck and Lin Hao walked to that piece of land. Finally I can fight you. Luck's face was full of excitement. The next moment, he saw his grimoire emit a silver light, followed by it, and automatically floated in front of him. Thor's boots. Luck flipped the grimoire, and the next moment, a pair of silver boots slipped on under his feet. Around the boots, lightning flashed. And Lin Hao, also at this time, opened grimoire. In the final analysis, there are two types of his magic, one is wood creation magic, and the other is plant magic. Wood creation magic is relatively weak, and how strong it is when it is awakened will be how strong it will be in the future. The plant magic is different, he can follow the master's magic power to increase, and then increase accordingly. Are you ready? I'm going to fuck. Luck couldn't wait. Lin Hao nodded, and with a wave of his hand, grimoire stuck and flipped. Plant magic, thousands of vines. Boom, boom, boom. The ground began to shake, and Luck's face was full of excitement, and he floated into the air. Bang, bang, bang. Under the ground, hundreds of huge vines suddenly rose. It is more than 10 meters high and stands precariously. Seeing the surrounding vines and the expression on Luck's face, he became even more excited. Drink. Lin Hao manipulated the vine and launched a bombardment towards Luck. Hundreds of vines were thrown towards Luck in an orderly manner. Luck, on the other hand, tried his best to dodge, kicking the vines away with his feet if he couldn't dodge. Luck relied on the pair of Thor's boots, and his speed became extremely fast, if it weren't for the large number of vines. It's just ugly to hit him. Lin Hao watched Luck's every move with his eyes, and after a while, a smile appeared on his face. The magic of close combat. It really is God's help, and it can be used to practice my own physical skills. Lin Hao muttered to himself. Say it. With a wave of Lin Hao's hands, hundreds of vines directly turned into green light spots and disappeared from Luck's sight. Luck was taken aback for a moment, facing Lin Hao and said, go on. Don't stop. No, I've changed my mind now. Wouldn't it be very boring if a melee magic fights a long-range magic? Lin Hao said with a smile on his face. Luck, on the other hand, didn't understand it very well, and looked at Lin Hao with a puzzled expression. The general meaning is that you can attack my body. Lin Hao added. Is this really okay? Luck asked with a smirk. Lin Hao nodded. Then I'm coming. Luck immediately rushed towards Lin Hao as soon as he finished speaking. It's so fast. Lin Hao was taken aback for a moment. In the blink of an eye, Luck had already come to Lin Hao's side, raised his foot, and kicked towards Lin Hao. When Luck kicked on an ice wall with one kick, and he was startled for a moment. Senior, don't let the water go, you didn't use all your strength to kick this kick. The corner of Lin Hao's mouth twitched slightly. Luck really didn't use all his strength for this kick, because he didn't know how strong Lin Hao was. If Lin Hao couldn't catch it with all his strength, it would be troublesome, and he would leave if he couldn't bear it. Hey, Lin Hao, you are so amazing. Do you have two kinds of magic? The expression on Luck's face became even more excited. Actually, this is not what Luck cares about, he just wants to fight, and he doesn't care at all about how many kinds of magic Lin Hao possesses. This is what he needs to get him pleasure in the battle. Lin Hao just smiled, didn't say anything, and kicked Luck with a flip. Snapped. Luck immediately took a few steps back to the side. The next moment, he quickly launched an attack on Lin Hao, and the speed was even faster than the last time. Obviously, this time, he brought his speed to the limit. Lin Hao exhaled cold air immediately, and made a huge ice blade, because if he was kicked by Thor's boots on his feet. That's no joke. When Luck's foot directly hit Lin Hao's ice blade. The impact made Lin Hao take a few steps back. That guy Magna really didn't lie to me, Lin Hao is very powerful. The expression on Luck's face became more and more excited. The speed of his feet is also getting faster and faster. Bang bang bang. The ice blade kept fighting with Thor's boots. In this way, the battle continued for several hours. The speed of both sides dropped significantly. And Lin Hao is ready to end this battle. Okay, senior, is it over? Lin Hao said, and a white gas suddenly rose from his body. Luck stood on the ground and was about to say something when the ice froze his feet. Absolutely, senior, I won. Lin Hao said with a slight smile. No. I haven't lost yet. Luck explained. In the situation just now, I can completely freeze your whole body, so what? I won. Lin Hao said, melting the ice that was frozen on Luck's feet. Turning around, he walked towards the castle, and dropped a sentence by the way. Okay, go back and rest for a while, I need to practice. What Lin Hao never expected was that at this time, Luck's whole body was flashing with lightning. To win. To win, 037 Luck and Amp, hashtag 039, S-Demon. While Luck muttered these two words, the thunder and lightning flashed on his body, his eyes were wide open, and he also revealed a scary smile. If Lin Hao saw it at this time, he would definitely be shocked by his smile. A voice kept flickering in Luck's mind. To win, Luck, you have to keep winning. Luck suddenly opened his mouth and said to Lin Hao's back, wait a minute. It's getting more and more interesting, Lin Hao. Okay. Lin Hao turned around subconsciously, seeing Luck's expression, he always felt something was wrong. While speaking, Thor's boots changed, with a few dang, Thor's boots grew claws like eagle claws. On his hands, he also wore silver gloves that were similar to his feet. Lightning flashes all around. Come again. Come again, keep fighting. Luck said to Lin Hao with a weird smile. The current Luck gives Lin Hao a feeling that it is like watching a ghost movie, which makes people's scalp tingle. Senior. Lin Hao tried to call out the knocking sound. However, no matter what Lin Hao said, Luck kept repeating the word to win. Damn, no way. I'm crazy. Lin Hao's face stiffened involuntarily. Suddenly, at this moment, Luck rushed towards Lin Hao directly. Lin Hao's subconscious elements melted, turning into a pile of ice slag and falling to the ground. Luck went straight to the air. The current him, whether it is speed or strength, is on a higher level than before. Where's the person? Luck was taken aback for a moment, standing where he was and looking around. Senior. You look scary like this. With the sound of a voice, the ice slag gradually turned into a human form. Because the human figure rose up beside Luck, Luck subconsciously took a few steps back. Immediately afterwards, that scary smile appeared on his face again. Come on. Keep going. Fight me down. Luck waved his hands, and the next moment, he rushed towards Lin Hao again. Thunder and lightning flashed non-stop on his body. What a headache. Lin Hao stroked his forehead. If Lin Hao knew that Luck had demons before, he would not have fought him anyway. After all, Lin Hao is no longer being polite, otherwise, he will be the one who gets hurt. Ice Storm Pheasant Beak. Lin Hao gathered the cold air on his right arm, and the right arm began to change, and suddenly a giant ice bird flew towards Luck. This move is a move from One Piece Akiji Kazan. It has a powerful impact and will freeze wherever it goes. Luck, who was troubled by the inner demon, waved his fist and hit the giant ice bird no matter how strong the impact was. In midair, there was a loud noise. The thick white mist swept across the earth in an instant. When the density of the white mist weakened, Luck was standing on the ground, panting heavily. I can't lose, I have to win, I have to keep winning, otherwise, if my mother doesn't approve of my words, I will be alone. Luck muttered with a scary smile on his face. I have no way to deal with this matter, wait for Captain Yami to come back. Lin Hao said in a deep voice. Now if you attack him clearly, you will definitely be dodged by him. So, Lin Hao has to come up with a good solution now. Dang. Luck walked towards Lin Hao again. His pair of eagle claw-like boots left 3 scratch marks where they passed. After walking a few steps, Luck suddenly started running. Zizizi. Lin Hao began to release cold air, and the surrounding ground was quickly frozen with ice. Then, he stood on the spot, while Luck fell from him, and his fist was about to hit Lin Hao. Swish. Lin Hao suddenly turned into an element, and just after Luck turned around, Lin Hao had turned into an entity again. Frozen moment, Lin Hao stretched out his hand behind him, and the cold air was released from his hand immediately. Zizizi. The freezing speed was not too fast, and it seemed that Luck's fist was about to drive into Lin Hao's head again. At this time, Luck's whole body was covered with ice. Call. Lin Hao breathed out a breath of cold air, and said, "Finally, seniors have solved this problem." Later, in order to prevent others from breaking it, Lin Hao moved the iceman back to the castle. Waiting for Yami's return. Noontime. The man who was shopping with a fist led a lot of things and rushed into the castle. Finally back. I'm exhausted. Yeah, it's almost at my feet. It was Vanessa and Noelle who came back. Lin Hao hurried over and said to Vanessa, "Sister Vanessa, Senior Luck's inner demon has committed a crime, what should I do?" After hearing Lin Hao's words, Vanessa was slightly taken aback, and said, "What demon?" Looking at her expression, it's obvious that she doesn't know about Luck's demon. Dare not coincidentally, Yami also came back at this time. 038 The Magic, what are you guys doing here again? Yami took the cigarette out of his mouth, and subconsciously glanced at the situation inside the castle. Finally, his eyes fell on an iceman placed in the corner, and he pointed at him. Whose thing is that? That. Vanessa and Noelle looked curiously at Yami's hand. When they just came back, the two of them didn't pay attention to it. It wasn't until now that he saw clearly that there was an extra iceman inside. Ice sculpture? Noelle asked curiously. After Vanessa looked at it carefully for a while, a smile appeared on her face and said, "Is this sculpture very similar to Luck?" Huh. Yami was taken aback for a moment, then laughed loudly and said, "You really look like that brat Luck." But as soon as the words fell, Yami suddenly remembered something, and his face changed. "No. I'm asking you who owns this thing." Noelle and Vanessa shook their heads, expressing their ignorance. At this time, Lin Hao's face was a little gloomy, and he walked slowly to Yami's side, and said, "That ice sculpture is not carved like Luck, but Senior Luck." What? The three of them froze for a moment. How did Luck turn into an ice sculpture? Lin Hao, you brat didn't do it, did you? Lin Hao smiled wryly, and explained, "Listen to me first, Senior Luck said today that he wanted to compete with me, but in the end, he was controlled by the demon." Demon? Yami's face suddenly became serious. Looking at Yami's behavior, Lin Hao is already sure that Yami definitely knows something. Yes, but then I have no choice but to freeze him. Listening to Captain Yami's tone, do you know of any way to wake him up? Lin Hao said slowly. Yami took a deep breath of the cigarette, then let it out slowly, and said, "That kid Luck does have a demon that he can't get rid of. And this inner demon comes from his mother. He has been growing stronger to please his mother. He has been instilled by his mother with the will not to lose. If he does something wrong, his mother will scold him. Over time, this inner demon was born. To be honest, I don't know how to wake it up." After all, Yami couldn't help but sighed. After listening to Yami's words, Lin Hao's face became even more gloomy. Indeed, after freezing Luck for too long, Lin Hao is not sure if he will be fine. "Will it be okay if you freeze Luck like this?" Noelle asked. "I'm not sure if it's frozen for too long, but if it's frozen for a short while, it's fine to thaw it slowly with warm water." Lin Hao explained slowly. Yami exhaled a puff of smoke ring, and then said softly, "Anyway, for safety's sake, let's thaw that brat first." Everyone nodded in agreement with Yami's approach. After several hours of thawing, the ice on Luck's body gradually melted. However, he fell into a coma. Up the hall. Suddenly, a cry of exclamation lingered in the entire hall. What? Lin Hao's magic has two attributes. Vanessa stood up from the sofa excitedly. As for Noelle, who was sitting by the side, she was a little confused. Although she was a royal, there were still many things she didn't know. After all, in this world of black four-leaf clover, no one is a mage with double magic attributes. Dual attributes. Noelle rolled her eyes, and then continued, the literal meaning is that Lin Hao can release magic with two different attributes, right? Am I right? Yeah. Yami and Vanessa nodded almost simultaneously. Really, this is the first time I've heard of it. Noelle looked at Lin Hao in surprise. Lin Hao just nodded and didn't explain much. You guys have mutated. Noelle said enviously. After all, having dual attribute magic is a great thing, and anyone can't help being envious. Captain Yami, we have really picked up treasures this year. The three new members each have their own strengths. One has the ability to cut off magic, the other has huge magic power, and the last one is even more outrageous, with dual attributes. Magic. Vanessa said to Yami with a big smile on her face. You are right. But I have to thank the guy from the Emerald Mantis Knights for giving me such a good material. Yami said slowly. After chatting for a while, Yami suddenly stood up. The others looked at Yami suspiciously. What's the matter, Captain Yami? Are you okay? Yami gave Lin Hao and the others a blank look, and then said, You bastards, I almost forgot to tell you about the business. Business? Well, I want to inform everyone that a new magic palace has been discovered recently. Yami said calmly. Magic palace? What is that? Lin Hao asked with some confusion. The so-called magic palace is an ancient tomb where the relics of the ancients are buried. There are powerful methods of using ancient magic, or precious magic tools. Yami explained. 39 The arrival of new tasks, how to use ancient magic. And precious magic tools. Lin Hao muttered subconsciously. Yes. Yes. However, in order to prevent things from being misused by outsiders, people at that time designed very powerful trap magic. The Demon Palace is a super dangerous place. Yami said calmly. The Magic Palace is similar to the tomb in the Huaxia world where Lin Hao used to be. There may be many treasures hidden in it, but danger comes with treasure. For this mission, our Black Burst Cow squad is in charge of investigating the newly discovered Demon Palace, but this time, you not only need to pay attention to the traps, you also need to pay attention to it. People from the Diamond Kingdom, because the Demon Palace is right next to the border where the enemy countries meet. In order not to be taken away by those guys from the Diamond Kingdom, you must complete this task quickly and reliably. Yami explained to Lin Hao and the others slowly. Understood, Captain Yami. Vanessa replied calmly. Captain, who will go this time? Noelle asked from the side. Yami was silent for a while, and then said again, I originally planned to let that brat Luck lead the team, but that brat is still in a coma, let Vanessa lead the team. The member is Lin Hao and Asta. What about me? Noelle asked. Since the mission this time is more dangerous, Noelle, you are not very good at controlling magic power, so let them go this time. Yami replied. Noelle hesitated for a while, and said, but that guy Asta doesn't even have magic power, so I'm afraid it won't work. It's not wrong to say that, but that brat Asta has a sword that can cut off other people's magic. This will be of great help to this mission. Noelle was speechless to refute, and could only say, I see, Captain Yami. Yami nodded, then cast his eyes on Lin Hao, and said, by the way, someone once found a magic tool in the Magic Palace that can change the level of civilization. A magic item that can change the level of civilization. Everyone looked at Yami in surprise. I saw Yami nodded. In the world of black four-leaf clover, it is different from the Chinese world where Lin Hao used to be. In this world, the older the magic, the more powerful it is. So, please. Understood, Captain Yami. Lin Hao replied. Well, you guys get ready first, I'll bring that boy Asta back. Yami said, then stood up and walked towards the gate of the castle. Not long after, a silver halo suddenly appeared inside the castle, followed by Yami, Asta, and Finral walking out from inside. I'm so excited to be on another mission so soon. Asta roared, his voice resounding throughout the castle. Okay, the staff is here, Vanessa, you have to take good care of these two newcomers. Yami instructed. I see, Captain Yami, don't worry. Vanessa chuckled lightly. As soon as Vanessa's voice fell, Finral opened the grimoire, and immediately after, the silver halo appeared in everyone's sight again. Speed up, I'm tired of maintaining this size of aperture. Fendel yelled from the side. Then, Captain Yami, we're off. Vanessa said, walking into the aperture. Lin Hao and Asta followed slowly behind. Immediately afterwards, when Lin Hao came out, what came into view was a meadow with a beautiful scenery. Okay, follow my steps. Vanessa said something to Lin Hao and Asta, and then walked forward. How far is it from the magic palace? Lin Hao asked curiously. It shouldn't be far. After all, I can see many old buildings underground. Vanessa said slowly. Indeed, at their feet stood tiles from many years ago. It's just that due to too long time, a layer of soil was covered on the tiles, and a lot of weeds grew. It's not so obvious under the feet, but the surrounding area is much more conspicuous. Some of the stronger walls haven't collapsed until now. There is moss growing all around, and there are traces of leaving. After walking for a while, Lin Hao saw a collapsed palace, which was very large in scale. But in front of this palace, there is an entrance about 1 meter away. The cave was very dark, and it was impossible to see what was going on inside. 040 Are you courting deaths? This the magic palace? Lin Hao asked Vanessa, who was on the side. Vanessa shook her head, because she didn't dare to be too sure whether this is the magic palace that Captain Yami mentioned. Let's go and have a look first. Asta said. The two nodded, and then walked to the entrance of the cave. From a distance, the entrance of the cave is pitch black, but when you walk in, you can barely see the road clearly. Inside the cave, there is some damp, moss, and vines. And there are still many stone bricks that have been cracked. At any moment, the whole might collapse. It looks scary. Asta swallowed forcefully. Yeah. Lin Hao nodded and continued, there's an eerie feeling. Vanessa on the side seemed a little calm, and said with a slight smile, okay, let's go in and take a look first. After saying that, Vanessa stepped into the cave. Lin Hao and the others followed quickly. It became darker and darker as they walked, and finally they could not see the road at all. I remember that Captain Yami said that there are many traps in the magic palace. Now we can't see the way ahead. If we continue walking, we may fall into the traps. Lin Hao said slowly. What Lin Hao said makes sense. Vanessa pondered for a while, then continued, however, even if this is the case, there is no other way. We must complete the task quickly and leave here. So, grope forward. Lin Hao and Asta didn't say anything, they nodded and moved on. After walking for a while, Vanessa spotted a tile that was glowing from cracks. What is this? An institution? Lin Hao asked softly. I don't know, but I think it should be a mechanism or something. Stand back a bit, and I'll try it out. Vanessa said calmly. Asta and Lin Hao hummed, and retreated dozens of steps along the road they came from. Finally, Vanessa pressed her hand directly to the cracked and glowing tile. Kakaka. After the tile was pressed in, suddenly, a beam of light flickered. After pressing the tile, Vanessa quickly backed away to avoid any traps. After the light flickered, the tunnel in front suddenly collapsed. Immediately afterwards, a new world appeared in the sight of the three of them. What caught their eyes was a huge hall. However, the structure of the main hall is very mixed, and there are still white water flows around it. Fist-sized spots of light fluttered in the wind in midair. Tap tat tat. The three of Lin Hao came out of the tunnel. Looking at the scene in front of them, the three of them were inevitably a little surprised. The sun's rays are not shining in here, nor are there any lights, but the surrounding things can be seen clearly. Okay, that's amazing. What's going on? Asta's eyes kept flickering with light. What are these things? Lin Hao couldn't help asking. After Vanessa looked around, she said in a deep voice, here, it seems that magic has distorted the space. Magic distorts the space. Lin Hao and Asta said in unison. Vanessa nodded, and continued, besides, the magic power here is much stronger than outside. Maybe there really is magic that can change the level of civilization. Lin Hao said. Everyone, don't move. Vanessa said suddenly. As soon as Vanessa finished speaking, Lin Hao and Asta stood there blankly, looking at Vanessa. See the strange stripes in the middle of some tiles? Vanessa said with a slightly solemn face. Lin Hao nodded to Asta. If I'm not mistaken, as soon as I touch it, the trap will activate. I know a little bit about this kind of trap magic. Vanessa said slowly. Is it a trap? Lin Hao glanced at the surrounding floor tiles. Sure enough, there were many tiles with strange patterns in the middle. You two wait here for a while, I'll go ahead to explore the way, make sure, and I will call you over. After Vanessa finished speaking, she didn't wait for Lin Hao and the others to speak, and walked forward quickly alone. After inquiring about it, she jumped up and jumped into another hole. And Lin Hao and Asta stood in place and waited. After a while, at another cave entrance, 3 figures suddenly flew out. And they are members of the Knights of the Golden Dawn. 2 of them are new members Yuno and Mimosa, and 1 is old member Klaus Ryunet. Klaus Ryunet, born in a noble family, looks down on common people very much, and is also narrow-minded. Mr. Lin Hao, you are indeed among the 3 sent by the Black Bull Squad. Mimosa said with a slight smile. Lin Hao, Asta. We meet again. Yuno said softly. Lin Hao just smiled, and said, well, I thought it was only our Black Bull Squad that would carry out this task, but I didn't expect you Golden Dawn Squad to be among them. Klaus pushed his eyes, and interjected disdainfully, Yuno, this is your friend. It looks shabby, and the civilians are indeed civilians. Even if you put on the cloak of the knights, you can recognize him at a glance. Out, 041 teach you to be a human also, Yuno. We are not here to reminisce, but to investigate this magic palace. That is, we must reach the treasure hall deep in the magic palace as soon as possible. We don't have time to entangle these civilians. Klaus looked aloof and added, his expression was full of disdain. Moreover, he didn't even look at Lin Hao and Asta. After hearing what Klaus said, Asta immediately became unhappy, and stepped forward and said, hey, Yuno, who is this impolite 4-eyed man? The voice fell. Klaus frowned, grabbed Asta's collar excitedly, and said, you actually called me a 4-eyed man, you were the one who was rude. No, how did you talk to me as a nobleman? Noble. Lin Hao couldn't help laughing after reading these 2 words. Swish. Klaus loosened Asta's collar and cast his gaze on Lin Hao. What are you laughing at? You're so rude in front of nobles. That's right, you're a pariah, and it's normal to be polite. Klaus sneered. I don't know what you're so proud of. You're also the same person with the same head, hands, and legs. Lin Hao retorted. That's right, so what about nobles? They are not just individuals. You bastard. Before Klaus finished speaking, Lin Hao intervened again, saying, go, Asta, talking to this kind of person is simply lowering our status as civilians. You. However, Klaus didn't finish his sentence, and Asta answered him directly. Lin Hao is right, then, let's go first. Klaus frowned even more, and was so angry by Lin Hao and Asta that his whole body trembled. Growing up so big, it was the first time for Klaus to be humiliated by a commoner, so how could he bear it? You 2 goddamned pariahs, it looks like I'm going to have to teach you a lesson, Klaus said, with grimoire floating in front of him. Senior. Seeing this scene, Yuno and Mimosa immediately felt something was wrong, and tried to dissuade them. But it's too late. Ka. Klaus' grimoire flipped. Swirling sharp gun, Klaus said in a deep voice, and suddenly, shua, it was in the air. Dozens of black top-like objects shot towards Lin Hao and the others. Just when the black spinning top was about to hit Lin Hao and Asta, behind Lin Hao, suddenly, there were several clicking sounds. An ice wall rises directly. Bang bang bang. The black spinning top hit the ice wall directly. At this time, Lin Hao and Asta all turned around. To tell you the truth, I haven't liked you since just now, and I can't find a reason to do it, but now. Lin Hao said, with a weird smile on his face. Lin Hao, I'm afraid this is not very good. The members of the Knights fight without authorization. If Captain Yami finds out, they will inevitably be beaten. Asta explained from the side. What does that matter, let alone the 4-eyed man who made the first move, I'll take it as teaching him how to behave. Lin Hao said slowly. When Klaus heard the words 4-eyed man and teach him to be a man, his veins suddenly became erect. Arrogance, it's so arrogant, a pariah actually said that he wanted to teach the nobles a lesson. This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. Klaus sneered. Senior Klaus, Mr. Linhao, calm down, we are here to investigate, so stop fighting. Mimosa persuaded. Mimosa, this is none of your business, I must teach this pariah a lesson. Klaus made up his mind. Senior. It's better not to fight, so as not to get hurt. Yuno also persuaded him from the side. Humph. Klaus gave Yuno a disdainful look, and continued, I'm worried about your untouchable friend now, but it's too late. Senior, don't get me wrong, I'm afraid you'll get hurt. Yuno said still expressionlessly. To be honest, from the moment he joined the group, Yuno has been ridiculed by Klaus all the time. If everyone is not in the Golden Dawn group, Yuno would have started fighting. Now, Linhao came forward and poked Klaus's spirit, and Yuno still felt pretty good. Yuno, you bastard. I was born in a noble family. Klaus was about to vomit blood from anger now. If I remember correctly, the woman next to you isn't from the royal family, and I didn't see her swearing. Linhao said slowly. Shut up. Klaus blushed angrily, turned around and flipped the grimoire directly. Before he had time to recite the moves, his eyes suddenly went dark. With a snap, he was immediately sent flying by something. Boom. Finally, he fell into the white puddle. Linhao held a huge popsicle in his hand, looked at Klaus who fell into the puddle, and shook his head involuntarily. Immediately afterwards, Linhao walked slowly towards Klaus. Klaus climbed up from the puddle in embarrassment, his face was very stiff, and he wished that Linhao would be torn to pieces at this moment. 042 The arrival of Lotus, you damn pariah. I can't spare you. Klaus yelled at Linhao angrily. Then with a wave of his hand, he opened his own grimoire. However, at this moment, Linhao let out a breath of cold air. Zizizi. The surrounding ground was quickly covered by a layer of ice, and even the water in the puddle was frozen. Because the speed was too fast, Klauskin didn't react at all, and his feet were frozen with the ground. Damn it. Klaus's pupils shrank violently, just about to flip the grimoire. A voice came again. I advise you not to move around, it's not just your feet that are frozen. Linhao said in a deep voice. Klaus is just a third-class mid-level wizard, while Linhao can kill even a first-class mid-level wizard. Not to mention a third-class intermediate wizard. Klaus was full of anger in his heart, he never thought that since a newcomer has such a strong power. Untie it from me, I don't want to bother with you bastards. Klaus put away his grimoire, crossed his hands on his chest, and continued to put it on. Linhao smiled wryly, and continued, did you misunderstand something? After all, Linhao has already walked in front of Klaus with a huge popsicle in his hand. What do you want? Klaus said disdainfully. Of course it teaches you how to be a human being. As soon as Linhao finished speaking, he slapped a popsicle stick. The ice in his feet broke suddenly, and immediately after, the whole person flew upside down again. Immediately afterwards, it hit the wall heavily. Puffed. A mouthful of blood spit out directly from his mouth. At this moment, Klaus is confused. He stood up slowly leaning against the wall, gritted his teeth and roared, you bastard, I'm a nobleman. Linhao slowly walked in front of him again, grabbed his collar, and lifted him up. He said blankly, so what about the nobles, it can't change the fact that you are a waste. After all, he threw him in the corner again, without even looking at him, and walked towards Asta. Linhao, I'm afraid this has gone too far. If we are investigated, we will be punished. Asta said to Linhao. Who moved first? Four-eyed men. That's right. It seems to be yes. Soon after, Mimosa went to treat Klaus, while Linhao and Asta headed towards the hole that Vanessa entered. At this time, the four-leaf Clover Kingdom, the capital. Tap-tat-tat. A mysterious man stepped into the hall. Immediately, he knelt down on one knee and said to the Magic Emperor on top. Magic Emperor, I would like to report to you that in the Demon Palace, the Golden Dawn Regiment and the Black Buffalo Regiment have launched an investigation. In addition, we have also found signs of an invasion by the Diamond Kingdom's Magister Legion. The man's voice fell. The important representatives of the four-leaf Clover Kingdom sitting next to the Magic Emperor began to talk about it. Diamond Kingdom. They have been actively expanding their territory recently. That's not expanding the size of one's own country, but invading other countries. The meaning is almost the same. But if there is ancient magic in the magic palace, if they take it, it will be tricky. After the magic emperor pondered for a while, he asked the men, who is the leading general on the side of the diamond? The general leading the enemy army is the Lotus of Naraku. The men said in a deep voice. Lotus. The magic emperor smiled slightly, and continued, I once fought against him on the battlefield, he is very strong. The magic he uses is also unprecedented and interesting. Although it is good to be strong, our side is not weak. As for Lin Hao and Asta, they encountered a big problem. It can be said that they lost their way completely, and they walked along the tunnel all the way, and they came to a hall that was very similar to before. Where do we go next? Asta asked. Lin Hao caressed his head and said, Don't ask me, I don't know either. After wandering in the hall for a while, suddenly, there was a sound of light footsteps. Lin Hao and Asta immediately looked towards the hole where the sound came out. Is Vanessa back? Asta asked. Lin Hao shook his head, and said with a serious face, No, there is more than one person listening to the footsteps, and the magic power of the one in front is still very strong. Enemy. Captain Yami said that the Demon Palace is the frontier, and it is very likely that they are people from the Diamond Kingdom. Asta said calmly. Just as Asta finished speaking, several figures suddenly flew out of the cave. The moment they jumped out, they also noticed Lin Hao and Asta. The people who found the two four-leaf Clover Kingdom Knights, should they solve it or move forward quickly? One of the men asked an uncle who was about 30 years old. And he is Lotus. 043. The shocked Lotus landed on the ground, walked to the stairs, sat down, glanced at Lin Hao and Asta lazily. A member of the Black Burst Bulls. It's a bit difficult. Lotus had a slight smile on his mouth. Lin Hao looked at the Lotus on the stairs not far away, and the figure of the yellow ape flashed in his mind. Indeed, apart from the appearance, the way of speaking, and the expression are too similar. It's really bad luck. I just met a self-righteous nobleman, and now I have an enemy. Lin Hao sighed. Schwa. From inside the grimoire, Asta drew his pitch-black longsword. Are we going to flee or fight? Asta greeted Lin Hao. Under the current situation, it seems that there is no escape. The man sitting on the top of the stairs is very powerful, so leave it to me. Lin Hao said calmly. Understood, Lin Hao. Asta replied while waving the long sword in his hand and pointing at the people of Diamond Kingdom. Up. After Lin Hao finished speaking, he breathed out a breath of cold air, turned into a huge ice blade, held it in his hand, and ran towards Lotus quickly. What an energetic young man, really scary. Lotus stood up lazily. Suddenly, at this moment, the ground was quickly covered by a layer of ice. Lotus quickly jumped up. Beads of sweat appeared on his face. And Lin Hao, already at this moment, approached Lotus, slashing towards him with an ice blade in his hand. Lotus quickly dodges. Swish. The ground was cut directly by Lin Hao's ice blade. Even Lotus swallowed forcefully when he saw this scene. It's really dangerous. If I hadn't been faster, I would have been split in half by you. Lotus chuckled lightly, and he didn't feel panic at all. While speaking, black mist gradually filled the surroundings. Surround Lin Hao. Smoke magic. Lin Hao was slightly taken aback. Suddenly, at this moment, a cloud of black mist spread directly towards Lin Hao. Lin Hao jumped up quickly, jumped into the air, his eyeballs rolled quickly, and finally found where the Lotus was. Then waved the ice blade in his hand and rushed over. Swish. The ground was once again split by Lin Hao, but the Lotus turned into a cloud of black mist and disappeared around Lin Hao. Hoo. The thick black fog once again lost Lin Hao's direction. Lin Hao pondered for a few seconds, and quickly took out the grimoire from his waist. Ka. Grimoire flipped. Wood creation magic tree net. In between, Lin Hao's grimoire burst into green light. Immediately afterwards, above the midair, a huge tree net descended from the sky. A cloud of black smoke descends. When the tree net touched the Lotus, Lin Hao immediately found out where he was. Immediately afterwards, he held the ice blade in his hand and threw it directly. There was a sound of whoosh. The surrounding black mist disappeared in an instant, and the tree net appeared in Lin Hao's sight, while the abdomen of Lotus was scratched by Lin Hao's ice blade. Blood was mixed with his clothes. Seeing the ice blade that pierced his clothes on the ground, and looking at his body trapped by the tree net, Lotus' face became slightly stiff. To be honest, I was frightened by you. At first, I thought you were an ice mage, but after seeing you use this tree net, I think I was wrong. Thinking about it now, you are so interesting. You actually have magic with 2 attributes. No, I don't think it's right to describe you with 2 attributes of magic. The tree net should be your magic, which is reasonable. After all, the magic power I feel from you is not very strong. If the ice element is also your magic power will definitely be stronger. Alas, what am I talking about? Lotus muttered to himself. He who had some train of thought was suddenly at a loss as he spoke. In fact, Lotus's judgment is still somewhat reasonable if the ability to freeze fruit is activated with magic power. Lin Hao will definitely not be able to use his current strength. That's why Lotus confuses itself while talking. Hoo. Suddenly at this moment, black smoke appeared around Lotus again. Immediately afterwards, he broke free from the control of the tree net, and pulled his clothes off the ice blade. Oh my god, you're confusing me, uncle. I'm going to have to give you some time to figure it out. Lotus' voice fell. Asta's voice came over. Lin Hao, what's going on with you? I've already taken care of it. Asta carried the black long sword on his shoulder. After Lotus heard Asta's words, he glanced at his subordinates, followed by moving his tibia, and the next moment, he took a step forward and ran wildly. While smiling, he turned around and counted, by the way, it doesn't matter if we don't fight, let's abandon violence and compete peacefully. Goodbye. Seeing Lotus back gradually disappearing from his sight, Lin Hao and Asta were completely stunned. Lin Hao. Asta, 044 Ice Cube Storm Pheasant Mouth. After a while, Asta suddenly said, no, he ran away, should we catch up? Don't forget, the purpose of our coming here is not to kill people from the Diamond Kingdom, but to find the treasures in the Demon Palace. Lin Hao shook his head slightly. Indeed, the most important thing is not knowing the strength of Lotus. Since he has no hostility to kill, there is absolutely no need to take this risk now. Asta was slightly taken aback, and said, that's right, but the people from the Diamond Kingdom seem to have come to look for the treasures of the Demon Palace as well. It seems that the purpose of the wizards of the Diamond Kingdom is the same as ours. They all came for the treasures of the Demon Palace, so we have to find the treasures of the Demon Palace before them. Lin Hao said slowly. As soon as Lin Hao finished speaking, there was a bang. The place where Lin Hao was standing began to vibrate. What happened? Both of them began to look at the surrounding situation, but they didn't find anything wrong. The shock seems to be coming from the other side of the Magic Palace. Asta reasoned. Lin Hao didn't answer right away, but approached the wall and stroked it. Sure enough, at this moment, the walls were still shaking slightly. It should be this way. Lin Hao pointed to the wall and said. Are we going there? Asta asked. Lin Hao nodded and said, of course, it's possible that Vanessa has also encountered an enemy, and we have to go to support her. Asta nodded, followed closely, and the two of them quickly rushed into the hole next to them. As it got deeper, the vibration in the cave became stronger, and Lin Hao was a little worried whether the tunnel would collapse. There should be an exit ahead, Asta, hurry up. Lin Hao looked at the white light at the entrance of the cave and shouted. Okay. Swish swish swish. Lin Hao and Asta jumped out of the cave almost at the same time. When they went out, they couldn't help being frightened by the scene in front of them. As Lin Hao guessed, Vanessa was fighting the enemy at this time. Moreover, Vanessa was not the only one present, the 3 members of the Golden Dawn Regiment had also arrived here at some point. Looking at them, they looked a little embarrassed. Vanessa and the members of the Golden Dawn Regiment were all injured. And there was only one enemy, wearing armor made of ore, with all his hair standing up, and ore on his forehead. The grimoire in front of him was in tatters, many of which were connected with lines. Obviously, he is Diamond Kingdom's whole card this time, Mars. Mars is an experimental product of Diamond Kingdom. His childhood was dark. He was selected as an experimental product since he was a child, and he was the last one who survived the cannibalism with the same batch of children who were cultivated. Therefore, his strength is undeniably powerful. Now, above his head, there is a huge sword made of ore floating. And he is controlling this huge sword, attacking Vanessa and you know them. Vanessa. Lin Hao and Asta said in unison, followed closely, and quickly ran in front of Vanessa. Why are you here? Vanessa wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and the expression on her face became more serious. Because Yami had told Vanessa to take care of the two newcomers when they set off. Now, the enemy is so powerful that even Vanessa doesn't know if she can escape safely from him. Now that Lin Hao and Asta are here, the burden on Vanessa's shoulders is even heavier. We rushed over here when we heard there was movement here, but we didn't expect you to be here. Lin Hao said calmly. The voice fell. Suddenly. Just then, there was a snap. Klaus was directly slapped away by Mars' huge sword, and ran towards Lin Hao. Lin Hao and others quickly dodged, and with a bang, he hit the wall directly, looking very embarrassed. This person is definitely not inferior to that uncle just now. Lin Hao frowned as he stared at Mars. At this moment, Mars' great sword slashed towards Lin Hao. Here comes Lin Hao. Asta roared, and directly pulled out the black long sword from his grimoire. He slashed towards the big sword that fell from the sky. Dang sound. The big sword was cut off directly by Asta's long sword, and with a bang, the heavy sword body fell to the ground. The ground was smashed to pieces. Mars was startled for a moment, feeling a little unbelievable. Asta, it seems that your sword is very useful. Lin Hao smiled, and then white gas bloomed from his body. Ice cube storm pheasant mouth. Lin Hao let out a soft drink, gathering the cold air on his right arm, which immediately turned into ice. Han Bing gradually turned into a giant ice bird, followed by it, and quickly flew out. Ah! The giant ice bird roared in midair and flew towards Mars. The ground where the ice bird passed was directly frozen. 045 The treasure of the demon palace facing the giant ice bird approaching step by step, Mars showed no panic on his face. Ka ka ka. The top of his arm was suddenly composed of ore, which turned into a huge arm. Trying to catch this giant ice bird. The giant ice bird collided with his arm with a bang. The ore on Mars' arm suddenly shattered, and immediately after, he flew upside down. There was another bang. He hit the wall hard. Smoke and dust filled him in an instant. Darla. Beside the broken wall, stones kept falling to the ground. Puffed. Mars spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire arm has been badly sprained. His face was very stiff. He leaned on the wall with his other uninjured arm and stood up slowly. Damn it. That guy did the same thing just now. He cut off my great sword with a single blow. Now this guy is doing the same. I clearly feel that the ice bird has no magical power, so it should be easy to follow. But why is this happening? Mars' pupils were dilated, and his eyes were bloodshot. Such a simple question, but now, he couldn't figure it out. But it was also true that two strange people appeared one after another, each one surpassing his cognition. Confusion is also a normal thing. Mars wiped the blood from his mouth. Yui of Flame Recovery Magic, Phoenix. As soon as the words fell, Mars' body was on fire. Immediately afterwards, his arm recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a while, the injuries on his body have basically recovered. Ka ka ka. His grimoire flipped over. Or Creation Magic Tower Ross's doll. As soon as Mars finished speaking, 5 or 6 puppets made of ore suddenly appeared beside him. Immediately afterwards, he quickly ran towards Lin Hao and the others. Ha! Lin Hao breathed out a breath of cold air, turned into an ice blade, and held it in his hand. Quickly slashed towards the oncoming puppet. Bang bang bang. Within 10 seconds or so, these puppets were all dealt with by Lin Hao and the others. Now only Lin Hao and Asta are able to fight, and the rest are seriously injured. Mimosa on the side is treating them. Mars looked at Lin Hao and Asta coldly. The strong survive, the weak perish. The voice fell. Click. Click. Around Lin Hao, the ore keeps rising, pressing on Lin Hao and Asta. Ah. Asta roared, waving the long sword in his hand and chopping it into pieces. One side quickly approached Mars. With a leap, Mars jumped into the air, continuously releasing ore to block Asta's footsteps. However, Asta is too vigorous, and Mars blocking will not have much effect at all. In the blink of an eye, Asta escaped from the difficulty, danced the sword in his hand, and jumped up. Directly hit Mars above midair with a snap. Shwa. Mars fell directly into the deep pit. As soon as Asta landed, Lin Hao roared at him. Asta, get out of the way. When Asta dodged, white gas rose from Lin Hao's whole body. Ice burial. As soon as Lin Hao's words fell, a gust of cold air flew directly towards the deep pit, and everything it passed was frozen. Who? In front of Lin Hao, everything was covered by a thick layer of ice. At this moment, the temperature of the entire hall dropped rapidly. Hoo-hoo. Lin Hao panted, exhaling white gas from his mouth and nose. Header Yami is really serious, and told me to take care of these two newcomers. It's not bad to ask them to take care of me. Vanessa's mouth could not help but smile. Mimosa, who was treating him at the side, couldn't help but smiled slightly after hearing this. It feels like Mr. Lin Hao is even stronger than last time. Ah. Do you know each other? Vanessa asked curiously. Mimosa nodded. Well, I was also rescued by Mr. Lin Hao during the last mission. Vanessa didn't answer Mimosa's words, but cast her eyes on Lin Hao, revealing a satisfied smile. Why are these two untouchables so powerful? Aren't they new members? Klaus on the side couldn't help gritting his teeth. It's my opponent. It seems that I also need to work hard. Yuno looked at the backs of Lin Hao and Asta, revealing a satisfied smile. After a while, Lin Hao and Asta came to Vanessa's side. Are you okay? Lin Hao asked softly. Vanessa nodded and said with a smile, I was still worried about you before. It seems that my thoughts are superfluous. This is the end of the magic palace. If there is any treasure, it should be behind this door. Mimosa said calmly. Lin Hao walked to the front of that door and stroked it. A door made of magic, muttered. Lin Hao turned back to Asta and said, Asta, use your long sword to split him open. Okay. Asta took the long sword in his hand and slashed towards the door. Crack. The magic-made door suddenly turned into a spot of light and disappeared from their sight. The scene inside shocked everyone. 046 Ancient mantra. The gold piled up inside is shining, all kinds of crystals, swords, vases, gold bars, magic cloaks, etc. There are countless. That's amazing. Lin Hao said subconsciously. It was the first time for Lin Hao to see such a huge gold and silver treasure since he was a child. It was simply beyond his imagination. Okay, good cow. Asta stepped in with his eyes shining brightly, grabbing the gold on the ground with one hand. After a few kisses, she finally lay down directly in the pile of gold. The wounds of Vanessa and the Golden Dawn have already healed, and they also stepped in, the scene in front of them. Even if they are nobles or royal families, they are also shocked. Because the pile of treasures in front of me is really too huge. Yuno looked at the gold and silver treasures around him, and suddenly, a green spot of light flew past Yuno. He was slightly taken aback, looked at the direction where the light spot was flying, and stepped forward to catch up. After walking for a while, he saw a scroll on a small table not far away. And around the scroll, there is still this slight wind. Yuno didn't think too much, walked over, picked up the scroll, and opened it. Suddenly there appeared some words that Yuno couldn't understand. At this moment, what Yuno didn't know was that the grimoire on his waist suddenly glowed green. Immediately afterwards, the scroll also emitted a green light. The next second, the light disappeared directly, but the text in the scroll also disappeared. The green light was too dazzling, directly flickering the entire mountainous hall. All eyes could not help but turn to Yuno. Yuno, don't move around. Klaus and Mimosa quickened their pace, walked to Yuno's side, and reprimanded. Yuno didn't speak either. He slowly rolled up the scroll and put him back into the distance. Of course here now, Klaus can only blame Yuno. As for Lin Hao and Asta, he didn't dare to provoke them anymore. He was afraid that Lin Hao would beat him to death. After Lin Hao saw that ray of light, he suddenly remembered something. Then he set foot on the pile of gold and rummaged for things. Lin Hao didn't expect to find magical props or magic that could change the level of civilization. As long as he finds a more powerful magic, he will be satisfied. Seeing Lin Hao's actions, Klaus frowned, couldn't stand it anymore, and shouted loudly. You Black Bull buffs are being tampered with casually. Maybe this is a national treasure-level magic tool. Huh. Lin Hao glanced at him over his head, and said in a deep voice, What? Let's move, you have an objection. Klaus suddenly let out a smile, and said, I have no objection, I just want to tell you to be careful, maybe this place is full of national treasure-level magic tools. Lin Hao ignored it and continued to look for his own things. Suddenly at this moment, that repelling bird appeared out of nowhere, grabbed a hair of Asta and pulled it in. And Asta yelled from the side, Stop it, my hair will be pulled off. The repelling bird let go and flew forward, while Asta followed slowly behind. After walking a few steps, he came to a wall made of gold that looked like a valve. What is this? Asta asked curiously. After the repelling bird called a few times, it directly pecked his head a few times. Asta dodged desperately, while yelling, You're pecking me, I'll go back and stew you. The repelling bird stopped, flew to the wall, and pecked at the wall. Asta froze for a moment, and said, Are you asking me to break through this wall? Coo coo coo. The repelling bird coo-coo a few times, responding to Asta. Okay. Asta nodded, pulled out his long sword from the grimoire, and swung it towards the wall. There was a bang. The whole wall collapsed directly. Klaus on the side shouted directly at Asta again, What are you doing? Of course, Asta simply ignored him. Just exclaimed. Wow, there's also a hidden basement here. Cuckoo. The repelling bird flew in after calling a few times. It landed on a comparative sword hilt, and this sword was somewhat similar to Asta's previous sword. It's just that it's much smaller, and this sword is the sword of Su Mo. Don't look at them as if they are the same, but they are actually very different. The sword of breaking demons, the tip of the sword can nullify magic, and the blade can reflect magic. The sword of demons can absorb other people's demons into the sword, and slash with attributes. Asta froze for a moment, walked over, glanced at the sword, then reached out and pulled it out. With a sound of schwa, the sword was easily pulled out. So light. This was Asta's first reaction. Immediately afterwards, his grimoire burst into black and red light, and the next moment, it flew directly in front of Asta. Ka. Grimoire automatically flipped the blank page, and then, the sumo automatically flew in, and fonts suddenly appeared on the blank page. Huh. Aston was stunned for a moment, but still hadn't reacted. Fly into my grimoire. Asta's pupils widened suddenly, startled. What's this? Vanessa opened a treasure chest and asked subconsciously when she saw what was inside. Lin Hao walked forward slowly, and saw a piece of yellowed paper inside the treasure chest held by Vanessa. The paper is full of characters, it should be correct to say that it is a spell. Is this magic? Lin Hao reached out and picked up the paper in the treasure chest, and asked. Vanessa shook her head and said, I don't know, I've never seen this kind of writing before. 047 Mars End Amp, hashtag 039, shock. Hearing what Vanessa said, Lin Hao nodded subconsciously. This may be the way of using ancient magic. Lin Hao looked at the paper in his hand and said. Vanessa smiled faintly, and replied, I don't think it's possible, because if it's ancient magic, I can more or less understand it, and this kind of writing, no, it should be some kind of spell, which none of them have been seen. Is that so? Lin Hao held the paper in his hand and thought for a few seconds. Although Lin Hao doesn't know what it is now, but in the depths of the magic palace, together with these treasures, there must be a use for him. Lin Hao, look, there are words on the back. Vanessa said suddenly. Lin Hao subconsciously turned the paper over and scanned the font on the other side. Although the font on the other side was not spells, Lin Hao still couldn't understand a single word. Show me. Yeah. Lin Hao nodded and handed the paper to Vanessa. After Vanessa stared at the content on the other side of the paper for a while, she suddenly laughed out loud. What's wrong? Lin Hao couldn't help asking. I can understand the font on the back. Vanessa handed the paper back to Lin Hao. Is it magic? Lin Hao asked. Vanessa shook her head and said with a smile, "Of course not, the content on the other side is only about the quantity and variety of treasures inside." Lin Hao looked at these words. Obviously, they were added later, and the secrets contained in them should be these mantras. Lin Hao was about to ask something else, but at this time, Vanessa had already looked elsewhere. Lin Hao picked up the treasure box containing this piece of paper, and wanted to see if there were any other explanations or other things in the treasure box. However, it turned out that there was nothing inside the treasure chest except this yellowed piece of paper. Afterwards, Lin Hao took out his own grimoire and sandwiched this piece of paper inside his grimoire. Suddenly, at this moment, a voice came. "Lin Hao, Lin Hao." Shouting, Asta quickly walked to Lin Hao's side. "Huh?" Lin Hao looked at him curiously. "Look." Asta said. He opened his grimoire and drew the sumo sword from it. He said triumphantly, "Look, I got this weapon from inside, and it got into my grimoire for no reason." "Really? Then I really want to congratulate you," Lin Hao said with a faint smile. Next moment, the ground suddenly shook, and the surrounding buildings were crumbling. The debris of the tiles kept shaking off the top. What's going on?" Asta said with a puzzled look, holding the sumo sword in his hand. "What a powerful magic power. It came from outside." Lin Hao's face stiffened involuntarily at this moment. Shua, shua, shua. Immediately afterwards, the Golden Dawn group and Vanessa also quickly came to Lin Hao's side, their faces very serious. "What's going on? This magic power is so powerful," Vanessa said in a deep voice. Boom. The original gate collapsed immediately, and thick smoke and dust rushed towards Lin Hao and the others in an instant. When the smoke became thinner, a titan made of ore appeared in their sight. And standing on the top of the ore titan, it was Mars, and now his, panting heavily, "If it wasn't for Yui who has the magic of fire and the phoenix, it is estimated that he will not be able to get out of the ice burial at all. I really underestimated him. I didn't expect to be able to walk out of the ice burial," Lin Hao said calmly. Suddenly, under everyone's feet, the ore rose instantly, blocking their actions. And Lin Hao was directly elementalized the moment the ore appeared. Immediately afterwards, from the top of the mine, he gradually turned into a human form. "This guy. What's going on?" Mars looked at Lin Hao and couldn't help frowning. "What?" Asta directly waved the sumo sword in his hand, chopped up the ore in his feet, and walked out. "Take care of these two weird boys first," Mars muttered, and then directly controlled the ore titan to punch Lin Hao fiercely. Lin Hao quickly dodged and opened the grimoire, and the yellowed paper that was in his grimoire before fell to the ground. At this moment, Lin Hao flipped the grimoire without thinking too much. "Would creation magic entangling?" The voice fell. Bang bang bang. Under the ore titan's feet, thigh-sized vines strung together directly. "Firmly pull the ore titan." Mars's pupils contracted violently, and he said in disbelief, "Wooden creation magic? This guy isn't ice magic. Why, made another wooden creation? Could it be, he's the same as me? Moo. Wood creation magic? How? It's impossible, a person should only have one magic attribute. But, why do such civilians have two attributes? It's really two, it's incredible." Klau's face was very ugly, he had never seen the scene before him. If he hadn't been knocked out by Mars before, he probably would have seen that Mars used flame magic. In this way, both of them have two kinds of magic, which will definitely make him doubt life. Don't be too surprised, Lin Hao is the first person with dual attribute magic, Vanessa explained from the side. Double attribute magic. This commoner is really lucky. Klaus gritted his teeth, full of unwillingness in his heart. Because he thinks why this kind of good thing should happen to the nobles or the royal family, instead of letting these commoners get it. 048 Ancient forbidden magic. Vanessa just smiled and didn't continue to reply to Klaus. Mars manipulated the ore titan struggled constantly. Papa. Dozens of huge vines wrapped around the body of the ore titan were suddenly pulled off. Afterwards, Mars flipped his grimoire and said in a deep voice, "Or creation magic scimitar." Shwa, shwa, shwa. In front of the ore titan, dozens of scimitars appeared out of thin air. "Let you taste the magic that is faster than the sword." As soon as Mars finished speaking, dozens of scimitars spun softly, followed by flying towards Lin Hao and Asta. If Asta is using the demon-severing sword, it may be a bit difficult to receive this blow. However, now that he has obtained the sumo sword, it is still easy for him to take down these dozens of scimitars. Let me. Asta jumped out, waving the sumo sword in his hand, and with a few clicks of bang bang bang, he chopped off all the scimitars. Seeing this scene, Mars frowned, and then ran towards Asta while manipulating the Titan. Get lost. You annoying guy. Mars yelled angrily. The Titan waved his huge fist, and punched Asta directly. Asta quickly blocks with a direct sumo sword. Bang. Asta flew upside down. Lin Hao stretched out his hand and pushed Asta's back, which made him stop. This guy is a little hard to beat. Asta stood firm and frowned. Lin Hao smiled slightly and said, "Okay, you can rest for a while. Don't underestimate the enemy, this guy is not as easy to deal with as you imagined." Asta instructed. "I know. Now go and use your knife to cut off the ore under their feet." Lin Hao said slowly. Asta nodded. In fact, Lin Hao can easily subdue Mars's Titan just by using the elementalization in the frozen fruit. Bang bang bang. Mars controlled the Titan and ran towards Lin Hao quickly. But Lin Hao stood where he was, but didn't move a muscle. "Lin Hao, be careful." Vanessa yelled when she saw this scene. Shwa. The Titan waved its huge fist, and directly smashed it down. With a bang, the ground was directly punched by the Titan, and a big hole was smashed out. Rocks, big and small, flew around. When the others saw this scene, they immediately held their breath, and their pupils shrank violently. Vanessa, Lin Hao. Mimosa, Mr. Lin Hao. Fixed. Mars muttered. However, at this moment, a voice sounded. "It's not as easy as you think." The voice fell. "'Z's easy." The Titan's fist was suddenly frozen by ice. What? Mars was taken aback for a moment, and continued in disbelief. "Impossible, I hit him obviously, why is there nothing wrong with it?" In the blink of an eye, the Titan's arm was frozen together with the ground. And above his fist, a pile of ice slag slowly piled up, gradually turning into a human form. Lin Hao squatted down, stretched out his hand to touch his fist, and said in a deep voice, "Frozen moment." A layer of ice quickly covered the Titan. Mars realized something was wrong, and quickly broke away from the Titan. Dara sounded. Mars landed on the ground smoothly, his face slightly distorted. "No. Absolutely not, how could I lose to you?" As soon as Mars finished speaking, the ground suddenly shook. His grimoire flipped quickly. Creation magic Titan's heavy armor, Mars shouted. Shwa, 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 several times. Then a giant Titan appeared. Immediately afterwards, he flipped the grimoire again, and continued, Creation magic sword of victory. In the hand of the Titan, suddenly, a huge long sword appeared out of thin air. Standing on the frozen Titan, Lin Hao said with a sneer smile, "To tell you the truth, everything you've done now is in vain. You can't kill me." Mars suddenly had veins on his forehead, and he controlled the Titan to run towards Lin Hao. Wielding that gigantic victory sword, he slashed straight at Lin Hao. For this kind of attack, Lin Hao doesn't need to dodge at all, he just needs to elementalize his body to be immune to all damage. There was a boom. The huge long sword swung down directly, and the sword of victory shattered directly. It is conceivable how much effort this Titan took. Call. A powerful airflow spread directly, impacting everything around. Lin Hao, he should be fine. Seeing this scene, Vanessa couldn't help saying. Asta shook his head, saying that he didn't know either. If he can't take this blow, he will definitely be smashed to pieces. Klaus said in a deep voice. "Mr. Lin Hao is stronger than we thought, and he should be fine," Mimosa said. Amidst the thick smoke and dust, a voice sounded slowly. "I said, everything you did was in vain." After Mars heard the voice, his face twisted again. "Impossible, absolutely impossible. You have already been hit by me, why nothing happened?" Mars' words almost came out in a roar. Lin Hao sneered, and didn't answer his words, just about to attack. However, his grimoire flew in front of him involuntarily. Lin Hao was startled for a moment. What's going on? I didn't use magic at all. While speaking, Grimoire turned the page by himself, when he turned to the page with the font. Lin Hao was completely dumbfounded, because the font that appeared on this page was exactly the incantation on the previous yellowed paper. 049 Ancient Tree Spirit. What the hell is going on here? Why is the spell on that piece of paper now engraved on my grimoire? Lin Hao now has a very rich expression on his face. He doesn't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. He glanced around subconsciously, and found the yellowed paper that was blown in the corner of the wall. But at this moment on the paper, the incantation on the front has disappeared. As for why it disappeared, Lin Hao can roughly guess it. Grimoire in front of Lin Hao suddenly burst into a shining green light. Everyone subconsciously stretched out their hands to block their eyes to block the light. Suddenly, at this moment, Lin Hao's face was very solemn, and he stared at his grimoire. What's going on here? The demon. Grimoire is absorbing my magic power. Lin Hao secretly thought that he wanted to stop, but he couldn't. After absorbing about half of it, suddenly, Grimoire's magic power rushed back into Lin Hao's body. For a moment, Lin Hao felt that his body was going to be blasted by this magic power. What? Lin Hao yelled loudly, and suddenly, with him as the center, a gust of air spread directly. The entire hall shook. What's going on here? Well, what a powerful magic power. Klaus said in shock. Lin Hao's magic power suddenly increased a lot. What happened just now? Vanessa asked with a puzzled look. Is Mr. Lin Hao okay? Mimosa began to feel a little worried. Everyone wanted to help, but they really didn't know how to help. Don't say they were puzzled. The same, now Lin Hao also looks confused. Damn. What's going on here? Lin Hao frowned, feeling very complicated inside. He now feels that his body is about to explode at any time, which is very uncomfortable. Of course, this is a huge opportunity for Mars. Bang bang bang. Mars controlled the Ore Titan and dashed away, then jumped up and punched Lin Hao with his fists. When the fist approached step by step, in front of Lin Hao, suddenly, a powerful light flashed once again. Crack! The Ore Titan was suddenly shattered, and Mars flew upside down, hitting the wall heavily. Puffed. He spat out a mouthful of blood, then fell to the ground and passed out. And at this moment, standing in front of Lin Hao is a titan as huge as an Ore Titan. Most of its body structure is composed of green tree roots, which looks a little scary. What is this titan? Vanessa, Asta, and the people around the Golden Dawn group all frowned when they saw this titan. Very scary. Almost everyone couldn't help trembling, only Asta's eyes were shining, said. Okay, so cool, is this Lin Hao's magic? It's really domineering. At this moment, the titan turned his head suddenly, glanced at Lin Hao who was underground, followed closely, and directly turned into a spot of light. Disappeared in the sight of the crowd. Watching the disappearance of the titan, the magical impact on Lin Hao also disappeared. Just now. Which one is this spell? Lin Hao held the grimoire in his hand, unable to recover for a long time. Let's not talk about whether this magic is powerful, or whether it is ancient magic. Lin Hao felt that it was not very important. The important thing is, if you have to experience these pains every time you use it, Lin Hao would rather not have this magic. Tap tat tat. At this moment, Asta and the others quickly walked to Lin Hao's side. Lin Hao, are you okay? Vanessa asked worriedly. Lin Hao shook his head. Is that titan just now your magic? Yuno asked from the side. Lin Hao hesitated for a while, then said softly, I think it should be. It's too powerful. He defeated him with one blow. Mr. Lin Hao is really powerful. Mimosa said with a slight smile. On the other hand, Klaus had a very bad expression on his face. Although he hated Lin Hao in his heart, Lin Hao's strength was undeniable. That guy, he shouldn't suddenly get up again. Asta said, looking at Mars who fell on the ground in the distance. I don't know, I think, this time, he should have no strength to stand up. Lin Hao said slowly. Bring him back to the four-leaf clover kingdom and hand it over to the Magic Emperor. Klaus said expressionlessly. Immediately afterwards, he walked in the direction of Mars in a diameter. Suddenly, the hall shook violently. Bang, bang, the top of the hall began to collapse continuously. What's going on? Yuno asked in surprise. It seems that the magic palace has been attacked by someone. Lin Hao replied. Let's get out of here first. Vanessa said anxiously. Everyone nodded, and even Klaus, who wanted to catch Mars, couldn't help rushing back. Yuno quickly opened his grimoire and shouted, Wind creation magic. Tianjin Wind, Arkansas. Hoo-hoo. As soon as Yuno's voice fell, a tornado-shaped object appeared out of thin air. Yuno stood on it and shouted loudly, Everyone come up, 050 ability to specialize Asta. Everyone nodded and quickly walked up to the arc made by Yuno. Boom. Boom. The speed of the collapse of the main hall became even faster, and even the entire ceiling fell down directly. It's over, there's not enough time. There's no way out. Yuno frowned while controlling the arc. Damn it, didn't we get killed by that person? We were going to be buried directly. Klaus continued to release the magic, hitting the fallen building. In this case, we can only take one step at a time. Vanessa looked around vigilantly, with the same ugly expression on her face. Indeed, the look on anyone's face would have been about the same if they had been in that situation. Mimosa, where should I go? Yuno asked anxiously. Turn right ahead and enter the tunnel. Mimosa said calmly, looking at the signpost of her magic flower. Time passed by every minute and every second, and the speed of the collapse of the magic palace became faster and faster. Almost, the rock on the top collapsed at the same time. Seeing the distance ahead gradually disappear, almost everyone's eyes revealed the despair. Suddenly, Lin Hao asked Mimosa. What do you think of this road sign? Although Mimosa didn't know why Lin Hao asked this question, she immediately pointed to the road signs and explained to Lin Hao truthfully. It seems like a long time, but it is actually only a few seconds. However, in just a few seconds, the road ahead is gone. What to do? The arc controlled by Yuno stopped. Let's let. Lin Hao said, walking from the middle to the front. Is there anything you can do? Vanessa asked. Lin Hao nodded, then shouted loudly, Ice tunnel. The voice fell. Immediately, Lin Hao released a strong cold air, and according to the road sign pointed by Mimosa, an ice jump tunnel was quickly formed in front of him. Call. After releasing, Lin Hao's body was covered with a thin layer of ice. From his mouth and nose, he kept exhaling cold air. If it is just to create an ice tunnel, Lin Hao doesn't need to spend so much effort at all. However, since the road ahead has already collapsed, to create an ice tunnel, it is necessary to push out the obstacles ahead. In this way, it will be laborious. Wow. This ice tunnel is really cool. Asta said excitedly. This. How powerful magic power is needed to create such an ice tunnel? Klaus looked at Lin Hao standing in front of him with an unbelievable expression. Lin Hao, how on earth did you do it? It's too weird. With your current magic power, horror can't be created. Vanessa said. What she asked was exactly the doubt in the hearts of everyone present. Everyone looked at Lin Hao with puzzled eyes, hoping that Lin Hao could solve this doubt for them. Lin Hao turned his head and said with a faint smile, well, I'm not too sure, my magic has dual attributes. However, it's just that plant magic needs mana to activate, while ice magic consumes stamina. What? Everyone looked at Lin Hao in surprise. No, magic that doesn't need magic power. The world is so big, there are so many wonders. Klaus said in a deep voice. No wonder, when you released the ice magic, you didn't feel any magic power even though it was on such a large scale. Vanessa suddenly realized. Mr. Lin Hao is a man favored by God. It's amazing. It's the first time I've heard of magic that doesn't require magic power. Mimosa praised. Ka. All of a sudden, Asta's grimoire floated in front of him, and right after, Asta directly pulled out the demon-severing sword from the grimoire. Asta, what are you doing? Yuno was startled and asked curiously. While speaking, Asta directly waved the demon-severing sword in his hand. He slashed towards the ice tunnel. Everyone took a deep breath. With a sound of dang, a knife mark was cut on the ice tunnel, and ice slag splashed towards the sides. Asta, you're crazy, don't you know that your sword repels magic? What if the whole ice tunnel collapsed? Was cold from head to toe. A sword that repels magic. Klaus was taken aback for a moment, looking at the small opening where the knife mark was cut. Immediately, he felt that his head froze, because there were too many things that happened today that he couldn't understand. Sure enough, magic that doesn't require magic power to activate, my sword that repels magic, has no effect. Asta said seriously. Indeed, during the last mission, Asta's demon-severing sword was on the ice ground released by Lin Hao. At that time, only a cut was made, but since he was fighting at that time, he didn't pay much attention to it. Until just now, after Lin Hao told it, Asta didn't know why, so he couldn't help but stabbed him. Boom. Punched Asta on the head directly, cursing, "If you want to try, you wait until we go out and try it. If it collapses, we will all die in your hands." Asta touched his head and said quickly, sorry, but I know it because I tried it last time." Everyone gave Asta a blank look. However, Lin Hao, your magic is really designed to defeat Asta. Vanessa smiled from the side. Lin Hao just smiled and didn't talk about these useless topics with them. Let's get out of here and talk." Nodded, and steered the arc to leave here. What Lin Hao didn't know was that in the back, Lotus used his secret trick, the hermit smoke, to follow behind 051 The Magic Emperor and AMP, #039, SB It was already night when Lin Hao and the others returned to the Four-Leaf Clover Kingdom. That night, a dinner party was held at the stronghold of the Black Burst Bull group. The next day, Lin Hao slept almost until noon. Bed. Lin Hao turned over his grimoire, looked at the page of the incantation, and fell into deep thought. He is still impressed now, the way the tree spirit looked back at him. Bang bang bang. Suddenly at this moment, there was a knocking sound outside the room. Lin Hao, Magic Emperor asked us to report to the mission. Asta shouted loudly. I see. Lin Hao closed his grimoire, tidied his clothes, and got out of bed. Up the hall. There were a few members of the Black Burst Bull squad sitting here and there, and among them, Luck had also woken up. Seeing Lin Hao coming down the stairs, Luck immediately walked up to him, and said with a smile on his face, "Hey, Lin Hao, are you playing with me?" Lin Hao frowned, and immediately recalled the expression on Luck's heart demon invasion that day, quickly waved his hands, and said, "No, senior, I've been very busy recently." "Oh, that's it, that's such a pity," Luck said with some frustration. "Let's go, Lin Hao." Asta called from the door. "Where's Vanessa?" Lin Hao asked subconsciously when he saw that Asta was the only one outside the door. Asta was stunned for a while, then said, "I heard from Captain Yami that she went to perform another mission early in the morning, so, only the two of us went to report to the Magic Emperor." Lin Hao nodded. Four-Leaf Clover Kingdom. King Capital. When Lin Hao and Asta walked into the Magic Emperor Hall, the members of the Golden Dawn had already been waiting there. At this point, the Magic Emperor is watching Yuno's grimoire. "You took a good thing. This magic is probably the most important relic in that magic palace." The Magic Emperor smiled slightly. Yuno heard the words of Magic Emperor, and said with some excitement in his heart, "Can you understand?" Magic Emperor nodded and said with a smile, "Probably. The most important relic, so handsome." Asta hurried to Yuno's side and exclaimed, "Oh, you're here too." Magic Emperor smiled slightly at Lin Hao and Asta. Lin Hao and Asta subconsciously gave Magic Emperor a courtesy. "You guys did a great job on this task," Magic Emperor said calmly, and continued to look at Yuno's grimoire. Suddenly, his expression changed. He approached Yuno, and said, "Well, can you use this magic once for me to see?" "Sorry, I haven't successfully activated this spell since it got into my grimoire," Yuno replied truthfully. "Is that so? What a pity," Magic Emperor said, slightly disappointed. In the world of Black Four-Leaf Clover, there are 4 major magical attributes, namely, fire, wind, water, and earth. And the others are other magical powers derived from these 4 elements. And the magic that Yuno got is exactly the wind elf, Sylph, among the 4 magic attributes. The Magic Emperor looked at Yuno and secretly thought, did she choose him in this era? What I can tell you now is that this magic will grow together with you, and one day, it will become a powerful force. You must cherish it. Saying so, the Magic Emperor returned the grimoire in his hand to Yuno. Click. At this moment, Asta also opened his own grimoire and handed it to the Magic Emperor. He yelled, "Magic Emperor, please help me to see, there are also strange articles on my grimoire." "Hey! You are too rude," Klaus ordered from the side. The Magic Emperor waved his hand to show that he didn't care, and as he said that, he glanced at Asta's grimoire. "Is this completely incomprehensible?" Magic Emperor was taken aback, and continued, "Even in historical documents, I haven't seen it before." Asta was slightly disappointed, and directly pulled out the sumo sword from grimoire, said, "Magic Emperor, look, he'll show up with this. Look." Saying that, Asta handed the sword of Suma to the Magic Emperor. The Magic Emperor subconsciously reached out to catch it, and his face suddenly changed. "It's so heavy. Thank you that you can swing such a heavy sword." While speaking, Magic Emperor's face became a little stiff. It is absorbing my magic power." A thought suddenly flashed in the Magic Emperor's mind. However, he immediately withdrew his stiff face, and said to Asta with a chuckle, "Well, I'll give it back to you. This thing is beyond my control. Only you who don't have magic power can get it." "Ha ha ha ha." Magic Emperor. Lin Hao said suddenly. "Ha." The Magic Emperor set his sights on Lin Hao. "Since you helped Yuno and Asta read it, why not help me too?" Lin Hao said calmly. "Oh, you also obtained magic in the Magic Palace?" The Magic Emperor said excitedly. Lin Hao nodded and said, "Yes." As he spoke, Lin Hao opened the grimoire, turned to the page of spells, and handed it to the Magic Emperor. After the Magic Emperor took it, his pupils shrank violently when he saw that it was not a font but a spell. "What's the matter?" Magic Emperor. Seeing Magic Emperor's expression, Lin Hao couldn't help asking. The Magic Emperor didn't answer Lin Hao's words on the spot, but said to Yuno and the others, "Go out and wait for me first, I have something to say to Lin Hao." "Yes." Yuno and the others nodded, then turned around and walked outside. 052 Hospitality. After Yuno and the others went out, Lin Hao spoke to Magic Emperor. "Magic Emperor, is there any problem with this magic?" After hesitating for a while, the Magic Emperor replied, "I have seen similar incantations in historical documents. This should be considered a rather special kind." "Is it a special magic?" Lin Hao continued to ask. "Lin Hao, you have to be mentally prepared for what I'm going to say next." The Magic Emperor looked at Lin Hao expressionlessly. Lin Hao vaguely felt that things seemed to be very pessimistic. "Say it." Lin Hao said in a low voice, and now he is mentally prepared to accept it. According to historical records, this is an ancient incantation, which belongs to forbidden magic. Forbidden magic? Does it mean forbidden to use it? Lin Hao was taken aback and asked. "Well, that's what it means, because this kind of incantation magic is too dangerous. It was listed as forbidden magic in ancient times. This type of magic disappeared a long time ago. I really didn't expect that there would be such a thing in the ruins of the Magic Palace. Besides, the incantation is printed inside your grimoire, it must be that this magic has identified you." Listening to what the Magic Emperor said slowly, it didn't matter to Lin Hao whether it was forbidden magic or not. Most importantly, Lin Hao wouldn't be too happy if it was so painful every time he used it, even if it wasn't forbidden magic. "Have you ever used this magic?" the Magic Emperor continued to ask. Lin Hao pondered for a few seconds, then said, "Strictly speaking, it ran out by itself." "Huh." Listening to Lin Hao's words, Magic Emperor was a little confused. "I didn't know what happened at the time, but grimoire opened by itself, and then a titan mostly made of tree roots appeared." Lin Hao answered truthfully. After hearing Lin Hao's words, the Magic Emperor became silent, because he didn't know much about ancient magic. Therefore, he didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing for Lin Hao to acquire this ancient magic. If it wasn't for this type of incantation recorded in historical documents, I'm afraid he wasn't an ancient incantation either. "Lin Hao, I don't know much, so I can't tell you much. It is recorded in history that this kind of magic is very dangerous, so my suggestion is, try not to use it until you find out." Magic Emperor said in a deep voice said. Lin Hao nodded and said, "I understand." After the Magic Emperor finished talking to Lin Hao, Asta, and the others walked into the hall again. All in all, you performed wonderfully in the task of exploring the Magic Palace, thank you for your hard work. Magic Emperor laughed a few times, followed closely, and continued. Actually, the members of the knights who have won many stars are gathered today, and we will hold a military merit awarding ceremony. Military exploits. Awards. Everyone was startled and looked at Magic Emperor curiously. The Magic Emperor nodded, yes. It's a commendation ceremony to award medals to those who have made great contributions. Come and participate together. Yes. Everyone said in unison. Then, under the guidance of the Magic Emperor, Lin Hao went into a huge castle. As the Magic Emperor pushed the door open, some members of several knight groups and their leaders appeared in Lin Hao's sight. Immediately afterwards, the people inside cast contemptuous glances at Lin Hao and the others, and laughed disdainfully. Then, the following process is that the Magic Emperor awarded them medals, and there is no such thing as Lin Hao and the others. Lin Hao and the others stood in front of the door, watching them quietly. After the presentation, the Magic Emperor said, "Thank you for your hard work. Next, we have prepared a little tea and light food for you. Please enjoy it to your heart's content. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention it. Today I also called some special guests." As soon as the Magic Emperor's words fell, those members all turned their heads and glanced at Lin Hao and the others, and some couldn't help but sneer. Now Lin Hao has been distracted almost from the moment he came in. He has been thinking about the matter of the ancient ban on magic. Lin Hao doesn't care at all about how many stars they have been authorized by the Magic Emperor and how to commend them. Later, the Magic Emperor said that he had to deal with some matters, so he left first, leaving only Lin Hao and the other members of the knights to the dining place. As a result, it was obvious that in the restaurant, almost everyone looked at Lin Hao and others with cold eyes. Why does the Magic Emperor give us such treatment, and the Magic Emperor who is the focus has indeed left at this time? Klaus said softly to Yuno who was on the side. Indeed, Lin Hao and his special guests, staying here, seemed out of place with them. From the moment they entered that gate, their contempt, white eyes, and ridicule never stopped. Among these special guests, the 3 members of the Golden Dawn group had serious faces, while Asta didn't care about the surrounding situation at all, and ate voraciously. Although Lin Hao also noticed the unfriendly eyes around him, he didn't bother to pay attention. Lin Hao has already understood the virtues of aristocrats and royal families. They basically look like Lao Tzu is the best in the world, thinking how noble he is, and so on. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. Vulgar pariah. Why does the Magic Emperor entertain such a shameless person? One of the men with military exploits in the Golden Dawn regiment said disdainfully. And one of them I can't feel his magical power at all. It seems that I was lucky enough to complete the task of investigating the Devil's Palace. A silver-winged vulture woman sarcastically said disdainfully. As soon as her words fell, the entire silver-winged eagle couldn't help laughing. That laughter, not to mention how disgusting it is. Suddenly at this moment, Lin Hao felt that the people in the Black Bull blasting group were actually normal people. As for the other groups, Lin Hao guessed that their heads were probably caught by the door. 053 lost face. Suddenly at this moment, a man from the Knights of the Red Lotus Lion King walked up to the members of the Knights of the Golden Dawn. If you want to talk about untouchables, don't you also have them in your regiment? With the 4-leaf clover grimoire, the people around you boasted to the sky. They are untouchables who forgot who they are. As soon as his words fell, the surrounding eyes couldn't help but cast on Yuno. The men from the Knights of the Red Lotus Lion King, holding the wine glass, continued, "The previous task of investigating the Magic Palace will be completed better if I give it to me." While speaking, he glanced at the members of the Golden Dawn regiment next to him. "You're really full of confidence, Gurin's brat. But, you're right, we don't have any expectations of that kind of pariah. It is us who can realize the ideals of Master Vanjance and the Golden Dawn." The men of the Golden Dawn said calmly. As he said that, Yuno might not have made him feel better, so he turned his finger on Klaus again. "And you, Klaus, don't you feel ashamed to stand here at your level?" Although Klaus was very unhappy in his heart, he still gritted his teeth and said, "Yes." He. There was another ironic scream from above the main hall. No. The ones who can't get on the stage the most are probably not your Golden Dawn group, but these two ignorant untouchables from the black-burst cow group. A member of the silver-winged vulture knights, holding the wine glass, slowly stood up, eyes full of disdain. Brother Wang is right, look at the two of them, one eats like a dog, and the other just met the magic emperor twice and was dragged to heaven. A woman from the silver-winged vulture knights said. Members sarcastically. Schwa. Suddenly at this moment, Lin Hao stood up, holding a wine glass in his hand, took a sip, and sneered. No, you guys ate shit on your mouth. What you say is so stinky. Yes, you royal family, the magic power of noble birth is indeed much stronger than that of ordinary people. But, in my opinion, it's useless for birds. Especially you. Lin Hao said, pointing to the female member of the silver-winged vulture knights and continued. You said that I looked like I was being dragged to the sky, may I ask which dog's eyes saw it? Everyone present was angered by Lin Hao's words. Look at your current appearance, don't you look like you are being dragged to the sky? He he he. The male member of the silver-winged vulture knights immediately replied. Lin Hao sneered and said, oh, that's really embarrassing, it seems that she really saw me being dragged to the sky with both dog eyes. The knights of the silver-winged vulture frowned suddenly, realizing that they had been tricked by Lin Hao's words. You bastard, I think you are tired of work, the female member of the silver-winged vulture knights trembled angrily. Hee, for this kind of arrogant person, you have to suffer a little to get a good memory. The men of the silver-winged vulture knights sneered. Immediately afterwards, his grimoire suddenly floated in front of him. Ka. I saw grimoire flipping. Holy water bullet. As soon as the words fell, in front of him, a water polo in the shape of a missile appeared out of thin air. Immediately afterwards, with a sound of, the water polo suddenly popped out and shot towards Lin Hao quickly. And Lin Hao stood where he was, watching the water polo approaching step by step, motionless. At this moment, Asta was about to pull out the demon-breaking sword in grimoire, but was stopped by Lin Hao. Then, when the water polo was more than 1 meter away from Lin Hao suddenly released a strong cold air. Schwa. The passive ice of the water polo and the entire hall froze. Clang. The frozen water polo fell directly to the ground and broke into ice slag. What? Everyone present was shocked by Lin Hao's scene. Without grimoire, the royal family's attack was directly followed. The royal family present couldn't understand what kind of concept this is. How come? What's going on with this guy? It seems quite interesting. In an instant, it not only froze the water polo of Silver-Winged Eagle, but also froze the entire ground of the hall. And Mimosa, Klaus, and Yuno were quite relieved to see this scene. Fortunately, it's Mr. Lin Hao, it's really amazing. Mimosa thought secretly. Good job, although I don't recognize you very much, but now you have done something I dare not do. Klaus thought to himself. At this moment, the men from the Silver-Winged Eagle Knights was struggling, and Lin Hao took the blow just now without grimoire. It has already made his royal family lose face. Unforgivable. The men of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights shouted loudly. 054 Eat Karma and Amp, hashtag 039, S Silver-Winged Vulture Knights. His face is very distorted, if this moment is not in this place where only heroes can enjoy meals. He will definitely tear Lin Hao into pieces. Ka. His grimoire flipped again, just about to cast a spell. Suddenly, behind him, a powerful coercion swept the entire hall. The faces of the people who were with Lin Hao were densely covered with sweat. Lin Hao raised his head slightly, and behind the men from the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights was the head of the Silver-Winged Vultures. I saw him walking towards them and step by step. Similarly, his face was covered with sweat. On the contrary, this coercion did not have much influence on Lin Hao. It is true that Lin Hao's magic power is not as good as his now, but he may not be able to take advantage of the ability to use frozen fruits. The man was so frightened by his regiment leader that his whole body trembled, and he said falteringly, Nozel. Brother Nozel. The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture stopped in his tracks, and said expressionlessly, Solid, don't do anything to the untouchables. But this pariah insulted our royal family. Solid said in horror. Shut up, do you want to shame my Silva family, said the head of the Silver-Winged Vulture group coldly. After hearing this, Solid didn't dare to speak any more. Immediately afterwards, the head of the Silver-Winged Eagle group said in a deep voice to Lin Hao. What kind of crime should a pariah dare to insult and disobey the royal family? Lin Hao slowly put the wine glass in his hand to his mouth, and after tasting the fine wine, he said, then what do you think should be blamed? The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture frowned, secretly thinking, under my coercion, he can still be so comfortable. This guy is really not an ordinary pariah. Suddenly, just as he was about to make a move, a voice sounded. Let's stop here. Don't you feel ashamed to do this to a teenager? The Silva family. The one who said this was the head of the Red Lotus Lion King of the Nine Knights. The head of the Silver-Winged Vultures replied with a sneer, it's really shameful for a young man to do this, but it's even more shameful not to teach him a lesson for insulting our Silva family. Boy, please apologize to the Silva family. The head of the Red Lotus Lion King said to Lin Hao. Apologize. Upon hearing these two words, Lin Hao couldn't help laughing. Why should he apologize? It was the Silva family who made the trouble, but it was myself who apologized. This kind of thing is absolutely impossible, not to mention, if they do it hard, the head of the Silver-Winged Vulture may not be able to take advantage of it. Have you seen that? It's not that my Silva family is narrow-minded, but that this pariah doesn't know what to do. The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture group sneered. After hearing this, the head of the Red Lotus Lion King troop did not speak out. Originally, he couldn't understand the Silva family's behavior, so he stepped in to reconcile. But Lin Hao didn't appreciate it, and there was nothing he could do about it. The apology should belong to the Silva family. There is nothing wrong with us. At this time, Asta also stood up and shouted at the head of the Silver-Winged Vulture group. Shut up, damned untouchable, it's not for your sake to speak here. The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture was furious, and the coercion was released again. Moreover, this time, it is even stronger than the last time. Asta's breathing became short of breath. At this suffocating moment, a familiar voice came over. Oh, what a powerful coercion, what are you playing here? The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture immediately turned his head, and when he saw that it was the Magic Emperor, he quickly put away the coercion he had issued. The Magic Emperor just smiled at the head of the Silver-Winged Vultures, but didn't say anything. The next moment, he walked to Lin Hao's side and said with a smile on his face, these things are still to your liking. Lin Hao nodded and replied, thank you, Magic Emperor, for your hospitality. The food is delicious, and the seniors are also very interesting. Hearing this, the head of the Silver-Winged Vulture group frowned even more. However, it is impossible for him to be rude in front of the Magic Emperor. Oh. That's good. Magic Emperor said slowly. After finishing speaking, the Magic Emperor took a few steps back and continued, the king organized a group arena, and anyone in the whole country can participate. In order to strengthen the reputation of this group arena. Therefore, members of the Nine Knights participate, of course, except for missions. Group arena. Everyone was taken aback. And the members of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights let out meaningful smiles. Master Magic Emperor, this group of special guests will all participate, asked the member of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights. The Magic Emperor nodded with a chuckle, and said, well, of course. After hearing about the Magic Emperor, the members of the Silver-Winged Eagle Knight cast their eyes on Lin Hao and grinned. 055 plan apparently, their Silver-Winged Eagle Knights started to target Lin Hao. With the Magic Emperor around, they dare not teach the lesson clearly. However, if it was a group arena held by the king, it would be different, and it could be justified. Later, due to the emergence of the Magic Emperor, these members of the royal family became much more well-behaved, and they never talked about untouchables from the beginning to the end. However, occasionally, Lin Hao, as well as Asta, are contemptuous. The time for the group arena is a week later. After party time. A certain palace. The head of the Silver-Winged Vulture was sitting on a huge chair, and around him were members of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights. Brother Nozzle, if you don't let that kid suffer, our Silva family will lose face, one of the members said. After hearing what he said, the head of the Silver-Winged Eagle group cast his eyes on the men and said in a deep voice. Don't I know what you're talking about? The Silva family can't be provoked by mere pariahs. Brother Nozzle, do we need to give that pariah some color now? A female member said. The head of the Silver-Winged Eagle group frowned, and said coldly, you mean, go to the Black Bull group to teach him a lesson now? She seemed to think of something and said falteringly, "This. Our Silva family has lost enough face today, don't you want the family to be humiliated?" said the head of the silver-winged vultures expressionlessly. "Sorry, Brother Nozzle, I didn't think about this issue." The female member lowered her head and said softly. "Schwa." The head of the silver-winged vulture stood up from his chair, his eyes full of anger. "Although there is no chance to teach him a lesson right now, God still favors our Silva family. In the group arena a week later, I will show him the consequences of provoking our Silva family." Night. In the stronghold of the Black Buffalo group, Yami said that he wanted to announce something important, and gathered all the members of the Black Buffalo group in the lobby. After scanning the people in the hall, Yami said, "Okay, everyone is here, right? Before announcing important things, let's talk about something else." Then, Yami cast his eyes on Lin Hao and Asta, and said, "Lin Hao, Asta, I heard that you two had a conflict with the Silver-Winged Eagle Knights, right?" Noelle reacted the most when she heard Yami's words, because she was also from the Silva family. She cast her eyes on Lin Hao, and there was a hint of worry in her eyes, because Noelle knew the Silva family members best. Lin Hao and Asta were startled, glanced at each other, hesitated for a while, then nodded. Schwa. Yami lit a cigarette, put it in his mouth, took a deep breath, and then let it out slowly. Then, his complexion suddenly changed, and he laughed loudly. "Okay, good job. It's not discrediting my Black Blasting Cow group." What Yami said slightly surprised Lin Hao and Asta. "Captain Yami, don't you ask why we have conflicts?" Lin Hao asked curiously. Yami was silent for a second, and replied, "Lin Hao, you know, I know more about the Knights of the Silver-Winged Vulture than you do. Therefore, it is definitely the Knights of the Silver-Winged Eagle who made this happen." With such trust in his members, Lin Hao nodded in satisfaction. "Thank you for your understanding, leader." Lin Hao said calmly. "Yeah." Yami nodded, and then continued, "Okay, it's time to get to the point." "Wait, Captain Yami." Noelle suddenly said, and everyone turned their eyes to her curiously. And she cast her eyes on Lin Hao and Asta, and said, "Has the conflict been resolved?" "No." The Magic Emperor appeared later. Asta replied, while Lin Hao nodded aside. "Noelle, no wonder. No wonder you came back safe and sound. Okay, Noelle, let's talk about your topic after I announce the main topic." Yami added a sentence. Then he continued talking to all the members. A week later, the king decided to hold a group arena in the capital of the Four-Leaf Clover. Members of the 9 Knights must participate. If there is a mission on a certain day, no one is required. Group arena. Captain Yami, I want to participate." Luck said excitedly. "It seems very interesting, let me join in." Magna said. But Yami directly ignored the two of them, and said to Lin Hao, "On the day of the group arena, the Knights of the Silver-Winged Vulture are destined to trouble you. So, you don't want to participate that day." "Captain Yami is right, Brother Nozzle, he won't let you off so easily." Noelle added. Yami exhaled a smoke ring, and continued, "Well, what Noelle said is correct, even her own sister can be excluded like this, let alone a commoner." 056 The last day. Regarding their persuasion, Lin Hao pondered for a few seconds, and said calmly, "No. Leader, let me participate, they may not be able to take advantage of me." Looking at Lin Hao's firm eyes, Yami also pondered, and said, "It's up to you, you can decide for yourself whether you want to participate or not." If Lin Hao only had magic, he should listen to Yami's dissuasion. However, he possesses both magic and frozen fruit, so he must participate in this group arena. What's more, during this period of time, Lin Hao discovered that the growth rate of the frozen fruit's ability was beyond his expectation. There is still 1 week before the group arena, and during this time, Lin Hao has already made plans. Don't do tasks, concentrate on cultivating the ability to freeze fruits, and researching the ancient forbidden magic. On the second day, the news of the Four-Leaf Clover Kingdom group arena had almost spread throughout the entire country. And at this moment, on a hilltop far away from the Four-Leaf Clover Kingdom, stood several strangely dressed men. Interesting, a group arena where everyone can participate. One of the men suddenly laughed. "Is that plan changing?" another man asked. "Of course, the plans will of course change. But, the higher-ups are not so easy to talk to. Another man asked. Don't worry. As for the above, I will tell you. This group arena is a good opportunity for us. The 9 knights, the Magic Emperor, and the King will all be present. Yes, my lord, I understand. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 6th day. At dusk, the surrounding area of the Black Burst Bull Group stronghold was covered by a super thick layer of ice. Suddenly, a silver halo appeared in the backyard of the Black Burst Group's stronghold. Mimosa ran out quickly, and said to Finral, who was at the side, "Is it the same today?" "Yeah." Finral nodded. "Mr. Lin Hao is working hard enough, I'm afraid something happens to him," Mimosa said worriedly. "Don't worry, our Captain Yami is reasonable." Finral smiled lightly. "Does your captain give you training in his free time?" Mimosa continued to ask. Finral shook his head and said, "No, the reason why Captain Yami was able to train with Lin Hao today is because last night, Lin Hao won more than 10 games in a row against Captain Yami." Gambling. Mimosa was slightly taken aback. Well, that kid Lin Hao's skills are really amazing, and he won the head of Yami's head. Finral almost couldn't hold back his laughter when he thought of Yami's face when he lost yesterday. Boom. In front of Mimosa, an object fell straight down and hit the ground. Ice slag mixed with mud flew towards them. Mimosa subconsciously reached out to block it. Tap tat tat. In the thick smoke and dust, footsteps came. Immediately afterwards, a voice sounded. "Okay, Lin Hao, that's enough. I'm really tired from the beating. I'm going back to take a good bath and eat a meal." Yami said calmly, then took out a cigarette and put it into the mouth lit up. And Mimosa quickly walked towards the big pit. Swish. Lin Hao stood up straight away, and when he saw Mimosa, he smiled slightly and said, "Mimosa is here, you don't need to treat me today." Mimosa looked at Lin Hao's whole body, and was taken aback for a moment. Because there is no wound on Lin Hao's body today. You know, the first 5 days were full of scars. I've troubled you for the past few days. Lin Hao thanked. Mimosa. No. You're welcome, I don't have a task anyway. After hearing Lin Hao's words, Mimosa blushed involuntarily. 1 yard is worth 1 yard, so I, Lin Hao, owe you a favor. Lin Hao said calmly. No. No need, Mr. Lin Hao, you saved me once, so it's right to do this for you. Well, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Mimosa said hastily, and then turned around and started running. Looking at her back, Lin Hao almost laughed. The reason why he didn't get injured in training today is because he used elementalization. And in the first 5 days, he didn't use elementalization, and when he released the frozen fruit ability, he didn't aim at people either. Or does Captain Yami know how to take care of the members? Finral followed behind Yami and said with a smile. Huh? What do you mean? Yami asked curiously. A few days ago, that kid Lin Hao was full of scars. He fought against the leader today, but he was not injured. What does that mean? The leader let go of the water. Finral said slowly. No. I didn't release the water. That kid is very weird. I didn't notice anything before, but when I played against him today, I found out. Yami said in a low voice. 057 The opening of the ring competition. Okay, Captain Yami, don't be modest, Lin Hao does have potential, but he can't boast like that. Finral quickly followed Yami. Yami's face suddenly became gloomy, and he said in a deep voice, What? Are you suspecting that I, the head of the regiment, have been dishonest? Finral was stunned for a moment, his face was a little stiff, and he quickly explained, No, I'm just kidding with you. Yami gave him a blank look, and then ignored him. Now, he just wants to take a good bath and have a meal. On the second day, the group arena finally ushered in. On this day, the streets were jam-packed, some were watching the excitement, and some came all the way to participate in the competition. Bang bang bang. Colorful fireworks bloom on the 4-leaf Clover royal capital. This time participating in the group arena, not counting the members of the 9 knights, there are more than 1,000. I heard that as long as you finish the top 10 in the group arena this time, you can get magic items from the king and the magic emperor. A man walking on the street said. Yes, why haven't I heard of it? Another man said curiously. Of course you don't know. My cousin went to find out. He told me that the king only passed on the news of the group arena. As for the rewards, you usually only know about them when you go to the king's capital. Do you think your cousin has hope? After all, he participated in the Knights for 4 consecutive years and was not selected. You don't need to underestimate my cousin. After losing the election last time, he has awakened 2 new magics. The other man frowned, and continued, but, I heard that some members of the Knights will also participate, so there is no hope at all. Ha ha ha, I knew you didn't know the inside story. People from the Knights came to help out, and the members of their Knights will compete first to start the show. The other men suddenly realized, and smiled awkwardly. And at this time, from their side, there were dozens of strong magic passing by one after another. 4-leaf Clover Capital, Ring Arena. This arena covers a large area, surrounded by spectators, and is at the forefront of these spectators. It is a member of the Knights, and their responsibility is to prevent the magic in the arena from affecting these audiences. And in the middle of the east side of these audiences, there is a balcony, and the king of 4-leaf Clover is sitting on the balcony. Sitting next to the king is the current magic emperor, while the 9 knight leaders are standing behind the king and the magic emperor. Tap tat tat. At this time, the king's confidant walked up to him and said, "King, the time is up." The king nodded and said calmly, "Then let's begin." Yes. Not long after following the men down, countless fireworks bloomed in midair. The king's confidant returned to the balcony, walked to the front, and shouted, "Welcome to the 4-leaf Clover Capital. As long as you enter the top 10 in this group arena, you can get the king and the magic. A magic item granted by the emperor. As for the rules, there are not too many. First, you can't hurt your life. The second is that the opponent loses combat power and wins, or falls to the ground. Originally, the king's plan was to let the knights bring the opening ceremony, but due to the large number of participants, it has almost occupied the entire arena. So only a temporary change of plan. There are a total of 1,080 people participating in the group arena this time, and the first match is a chaotic battle. The last 50 people can pass the next round. The king's confidant said slowly. After the contestants heard this, they immediately frowned. Out of 1,080 people, only 50 will make it to the next round. It's crazy. Yeah, I have to find a way to get up, and I can't fight hard with them. Me too. After the end, they should not have much physical strength left. When the time comes, it's our chance to make a move. After a while, the king's confidant suddenly shouted, "Then, the game begins." As soon as his words fell, the arena immediately exploded, and all kinds of magic flew everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the arena was already in dilapidated condition. Tap tat tat. On the path in the middle of the auditorium, one of the members of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights came to the front. "Have you changed your plan temporarily?" Another member of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights turned their heads, then nodded and said, "Yes, the original opening was changed to these untouchables first. And we waited for them to finish the game, and during the 2 hours of rest, we were playing the Knights game. Also, Brother Nozel said, today is just to make that pariah suffer a little bit. After all, the Magic Emperor and the King are here." 058 Idon and Amp, hashtag 039, T like the royal family cut. The member of the Silver-Winged Vulture Knights was full of unwillingness. Last time, Lin Hao made him lose face at the banquet, and now he just wants to tear Lin Hao into pieces. "Okay, Brother Solid, I don't understand how you feel, but I really don't have a chance today." Solid closed his eyes in thought, his face distorted. A few seconds later, he continued to speak, "Damn pariah, I'll let him understand the difference between the royal family and the pariah." "Brother Solid. You. Don't worry, I won't act recklessly, I just let him understand the distinction between high and low." After saying that, Solid turned around and walked away. After a while, he came to the rest room of the arena. At this moment, there stood a man from the Silva family just like him. "What's going on?" Solid asked. Hearing this, the man turned around and saw that it was Solid. He squeezed out a smile, and said, "Don't you worry about my work, you and him are definitely the first to appear on the stage." Solid nodded in satisfaction, and said, "Okay, now let's wait for the group of untouchables in front of us to finish their competition. As time passed by, every minute and every second, there were fewer and fewer people standing in the arena. 200. 100 people. 60 people. 50 people. Suddenly, at this moment, on the balcony, the king's confidant shouted, "The first round, the competition is over, the 50 contestants standing on the ring, enter the waiting room." Schwa, schwa, schwa. As soon as the king's confidant finished speaking, a large number of soldiers rushed up and lifted the fallen people down in the ring. After a while, all the people on the ring were evacuated. Immediately afterwards, a wizard stepped forward and opened the grimoire. He shouted loudly, and in an instant, the originally dilapidated arena was restored. Okay, these 50 contestants will rest for 2 hours. During these 2 hours, the mages of our knights will compete. As he spoke, the king's confidant took out a piece of paper from his pocket and scanned it. Then read. In the first match, Lin Hao from the Black Burst Bulls will face off from Solid, the Silver Wing Eagles. As soon as his words fell, Solid slowly walked out of the lounge with a superior expression. And in the lounge on the other side, Silver-Winged Vulture. It seems that the power of the royal family is great. If you want to fight, you can fight with anyone. Lin Hao stood up from the chair with a sneer. Lin Hao, you have to be careful. Noel instructed with some worry. Lin Hao smiled slightly, and said, Good, I'll come down if you beat me casually. After all, without waiting for Noel to continue speaking, she walked towards the ring. At this time, above the balcony. It seems inappropriate for newcomers to fight with old members. Yami said suddenly. Oh, is that so? Could it be the head of the Black Burst Bulls, who is afraid that the members of my Silver-Winged Eagle Knights will bully the new members of your group? The head of the Silver-Winged Eagles sneered from the side. Ha ha ha. Yami laughed a few times, and replied, that's not the case. To be able to fight with the old members of the Silver-Winged Eagles is the blessing of that kid Lin Hao. Well, that's right, Lin Hao can fight with the old members, so he can learn a lot from the seniors. The Magic Emperor sitting in front said with a smile. Well, yes, the new members should learn from the old members, so that they can properly protect the four-leaf clover kingdom. The king also said. What I'm talking about is that if you can learn from the old members of the Silver-Winged Eagle group, you will naturally gain a lot. Yami also added. Of course, in this battle, the new members of your Black Burst Bull squad will understand a lot. The head of the Silver-Winged Eagle squad sneered. In the arena, Lin Hao had already reached the center of the ring, only 5 meters away from Solid of the Silver-Winged Eagle group. Untouchable, to be able to fight against the royal family, you should be very proud. Solid said sarcastically. Lin Hao was taken aback, a smile appeared on his face, and he said, You look so stupid, I thought your mind was full of idiots, it seems that I was wrong, saying that idiots are too flattering to you. After hearing Lin Hao's words, Solid immediately frowned, and his face flushed with anger. Shut up, you pariah, what should you do for insulting the royal family? If the match hadn't started yet, Solid would have attacked Lin Hao just at that moment. Royal family. In front of me, don't talk about these fancy things with me. Lin Hao said slowly. Hee hee, a pariah who has never seen the world, your ignorance really makes people feel sad. Solid laughed. And at this moment, on the balcony, a loud voice suddenly sounded. Game start. As soon as the words fell, Solid revealed a strange smile and said, Now I will let you know the difference between the royal family and the pariah. Ka ka ka. Solid's grimoire flew directly in front of him, emitting a blue light, and flipped right after him. Water binding magic, sea serpent's binding. As soon as the words fell, a water column rose directly behind Solid. It turned into a sea snake, hovered in midair and flew towards Lin Hao quickly. In the blink of an eye, the sea snake wrapped Lin Hao up, but Lin Hao's eyes revealed nothing but innocence. A pariah is really a pariah. You can't dodge even a small attack. Who gave you the courage to act so recklessly? Solid said mockingly. Your rubbish attack, do I need to avoid it? Lin Hao said calmly. Indeed, it would be more difficult to dodge such an attack. It would be better to stand still and let him play around with a bunch of useless things. The next moment, his body emitted white gas. Zizizi. The sea snake hovering over Lin Hao's body was slowly being frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye. A few seconds later, the sea snake completely turned into an ice snake. Lin Hao exerted a little force, and with 2 clicks, the ice snake hovering over his body broke off directly. Bang bang bang. A pile of ice snake remains fell to the ground. Solid's complexion suddenly changed, and his eyes became sharper. At this time, above the balcony. Well, the new members of the Black Burst Bull group are very interesting, the king said after witnessing what happened just now. The Magic Emperor nodded with a smile, and replied, "It's not just him. Among the newcomers to the Knights this year, are there 3 new members who are very interesting. 3. God really protects my 4-leaf clover kingdom. Someday I have time, I must meet who is this interesting child." The king smiled from ear to ear. "Isn't the seedling of my knights good?" Yami asked the head of the silver-winged vultures beside him, smoking a cigarette. The face of the head of the silver-winged eagle group changed, he snorted, and said, "It's only starting now. He still has a lot to learn." "That's right." Yami laughed loudly, and then continued, "Then I will first thank you, Lin Hao, as the team leader." The head of the silver-winged eagle group frowned, ignored Yami, and cast his eyes on the ring. If Solid doesn't defeat Lin Hao this time and give him a hard lesson, it is estimated that the reputation of his Silva family will really be ruined. After all, what is the concept of a commoner who defeats the royal family? The most deadly thing is not this. It was a commoner who had joined the regiment for less than a year, defeating an old member who had joined the regiment for a long time. With Solid defeated, the Silva family is destined to be reduced to a big joke in the 4-leaf clover capital. "I've heard you babbling a lot of useless nonsense from the very beginning, and I'm really sorry for not letting you lie down," Lin Hao said, gathering the air conditioning on his right arm. Testimonials cough cough. It's finally time for this book to be put on the shelves. I know this book has been delayed for a long time, but I can't help it. It's almost Chinese New Year, and there are a lot of things to sit on. Readers who like this book, the author would like to thank you in advance. Every evaluation ticket, every flower, every collection, and every comment of yours is the driving force for Codewords. Thank you very much. After 12 o'clock in the morning tonight, when the book was on the shelves, the author was also very confused, and his grades were mediocre. However, this Black 4-leaf clover is a very unpopular anime. If you don't say it, you may not believe it. This is Feilu's first Black 4-leaf clover. It would be a lie to say no panic. Although the author said he wasn't a newcomer, he was actually almost like a newcomer. Feilu's first book was put on the shelves with a dazed look on his face. "I didn't understand anything at the time, so I wrote it in a daze for a few months. With the persuasion of the big guys later, I reopened a new book, which is now the Black 4-leaf clover." Here, the author kowtows to thank those readers who have never left. "I will definitely work hard to code. Try to get more and more every day. I hope it will be on the shelves. Don't be too miserable, everyone give a subscription." Well, let's not talk about other things, let's talk about the subscription. Of course, your subscriptions, regarding the survival of this book, each subscription determines the fate of this book. Undoubtedly, it will explode when it is put on the shelves, and the outbreak of this book will be around 8 to 10 tomorrow. In the early morning, about 3 chapters will be released first, and then one after another during the day. If the grades are better, of course the author will desperately update. Please. 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 Say important things 3 times. Well, the author is going to code, and I will leave it to you tonight. Also, Happy New Year to everyone. But the hard-working author still has to sit in front of the computer and type. There is a red envelope for adding a skirt. Everyone can add the skirt number 6. 33520. 004. 059 Dragon King and Amp, hashtag 039, S Warhammers is easy, a few times. Lin Hao's right arm directly ejected a gust of cold air, and the ground where the shock wave passed was covered with a layer of ice. Seeing this scene, Solid quickly escaped. Boom. The edge of the arena was directly covered with a thick layer of ice. Solid frowned, feeling a little confused like those before, because the attack launched by Lin Hao was completely inconsistent with magic power. What's going on? I only heard that he has dual attribute magic, but what about magic power? Solid was distracted for a moment. Suddenly, behind him, a gloomy voice came. "Call me, if you lose your mind, you will be killed." After hearing this, Solid's pupils shrank violently. "Damn it. When did you come behind me?" Solid had just finished speaking, before he had time to react. Lin Hao's thighs melted into ice, and he was kicked into the air with a heavy kick. "Call out." In midair, a stunning solitary line was drawn, and then fell heavily to the ground. All the audience saw this scene, their eyes widened. "That one just joined the Knights this year," a man said. "It seems to be. The one who fought with him is an old member of Silver-Winged Eagle. Oh my god. This year's new members are so powerful, they have the upper hand from the beginning. I also heard that one of this year's Knights won the 4-leaf Clover Grimoire." 4-leaf Clover Grimoire? Isn't that the one used by the original Magic Emperor? Yes. Today's new member is really Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But at this moment, on the balcony, the head of the Silver-Winged Vultures was pale, staring at Solid above the ring, his eyes revealing only anger. "Chief of the Silver-Winged Eagles, the new seedlings of my Black Burst Bulls are not bad," Yami said with a slight smile. After hearing this, the head of the Silver-Winged Eagle group became even more ugly. Apparently, Yami is just trying to change the way to mock the members of the Silver-Winged Grand Knights to no avail. It's just the beginning. "It may be too early for the head of the Black Bull Buff group to say this," said the head of the Silver-Winged Eagle group. "It's really good, but looking at him, he seems very confident. He hasn't used Grimoire until now." The king interrupted the conversation between Yami and the leader of the Silver-Winged Vultures. "You don't know, Lin Hao's child is a rare dual attribute magic." Magic Emperor added next to it. "Dual attribute magic? I've lived for so many years, and this is the first time I've heard of it," the king said calmly. "It's not surprising, because it's too rare. During the last inspection of the Demon Palace, according to the report of the members of the Golden Dawn mission, there was also an area with double magic in the Diamond Kingdom. However, he is incomparable to Lin Hao. Lin Hao is born, and he is just a test product of Diamond Kingdom. Experimental subject, Julius, there seems to be a lot of movement in the Diamond Kingdom recently. Have you thought of any good way?" the king asked the Magic Emperor. Magic Emperor nodded. "1, I have registered." The Magic Emperor was chatting with the king, but completely deviated from the subject. Until a ray of light flickered, the regiment pulled them back on track. "Unforgivable, unforgivable, you bloody pariah." Solid's face was very distorted. As a royal family, Solid has excellent genes, and his natural magic power is stronger than others. However, they all have a common problem, that is, their magic power is very strong, and their physical skills are almost all inferior. If the magic is strong, they have Asta's amazing body. The magic power is the same as the physical skill, it can fight in melee and far away, strength will definitely fall into more than one level. Ask for flowers. But, also, in the world of Black 4-leaf Clover, most mages belong to long-distance combat. Maybe in their eyes, it doesn't matter if you practice physical skills or not. "Water restraint magic, Dragon King's Warhammer," Solid shouted loudly. I saw his grimoire flipping up and down, and after it stopped, a strong light suddenly burst out from inside his grimoire. What a strong magic power. Can that new member catch it? If he can't catch it, his life is very likely to be in danger, the king said to the Magic Emperor, who was a little worried. 0. Magic Emperor pondered for a while, then said, "Then, for the safety of the new members, let's end the competition." "No. Lin Hao can take it," Yami said calmly from behind. The Magic Emperor and the king were slightly taken aback, then turned their heads and looked at Yami. "Yami, this is no joke, it's about a person's life," Magic Emperor said in a deep voice. "Don't worry. That kid Lin Hao can handle it." Yami still had that calm expression. Seeing Yami's expression, Magic Emperor had no choice but to cancel the suspension of the game. "Head of the Black Burst Bulls, if you, a new member, can't take over and cause any serious consequences, I, the Silver-Winged Eagle Knights, will not take any responsibility," the leader of the Silver-Winged Eagles said coldly. Yami smiled slightly and said, "Of course." The head of the Silver-Winged Vultures also grinned and was not talking. Now he just wants Solid to release all his magic and kill Lin Hao. Anyway, even if Lin Hao died, it had nothing to do with their silver-winged vulture knights. Ask for the first order, ask for the first order, ask for the first order, it is really important, everyone give the author a subscription. 060 Unfortunately, I am not an ordinary person, but at this moment, Solid seemed to be going crazy, and his whole smiling face began to distort. Untouchable, I will let your mind always remember that the Silva family is something you cannot insult in your life. Solid yelled at Lin Hao. There was a schwa. Behind Solid, a very large water column shot up towards the sky. Immediately afterwards, a super huge water polo formed, and the water polo gradually turned into the shape of a hammer. Floating high in the midair, the formation is very scary. Don't worry, today I will let you remember that anyone who is not a royal family can be messed with. Lin Hao said expressionlessly. After hearing Lin Hao's words, Solid grinned once again in a distorted 250 laugh. His appearance made one's hair stand on end. Have you not figured out the current situation yet, you pariah who only knows how to talk? Solid smiled coldly. Immediately following the dancing of both hands, the water-shaped hammer also moved in the air. Lin Hao stood where he was, without making any unnecessary movements. Go to hell, you pariah. As soon as the words fell, Solid waved his hands down, and immediately after, the water-shaped hammer in midair hit Lin Hao with a hammer. There was a bang. The water-shaped hammer hit the ground by itself, and immediately, the entire arena shook violently. Cracks in the shape of spider webs opened around it. The audience watching the play held their breath at the moment when the hammer fell. He won't be smashed into meat paste by this hammer. A male audience member said with a stiff face. Should, probably not, they are both members of the Knight Order, it is impossible to kill each other, another replied. However, look around that magic hammer, there is no sign of that new member at all. The only possibility is being smashed under the hammer. It seems, what you said makes sense. Not only were the audience terrified, even the king couldn't sit still. Immediately stood up from the chair. He should be fine, the king frowned. Even the current magic emperor is not sure if it will be okay for Lin Hao to take the hammer head on. I don't know. The magic emperor also stood up slowly and said with a blank expression. Similarly, he is also very worried about Lin Hao's safety now. If it weren't for what Yami said just now, he probably would have suspended the game long ago. Originally, the new members fought against the old members, and the arrangement was a bit outrageous. If you take Solid's move head-on, the chance of surviving is almost zero. The head of the silver-winged eagle said with a sneer. Then he turned his eyes to Yami, and continued, it's not that I brag about the strength of my team members. The leader of the Black Blasting Cow team, if the new member of your team has a body of steel, he may survive. However, it's a pity that he is only a physical body. He had a chance to survive just now, but you stopped him, so the one who killed him was not Solid, but you. Ha. Yami seemed a little calm, smoking a cigarette leisurely, as if it was none of his business. After about 10 seconds, he said, I have confidence in the members of my Knight Order. This is not the place where he fell. Speak hard, I think you want to get rid of responsibility. The head of the silver-winged eagle group grinned coldly. Okay. Shut up both of you. Magic Emperor said calmly. Just wanted to go down and have a look. But, at this very moment, the water-shaped iron mouth is gradually being frozen. Solid immediately realized that something was wrong, and waved his hand to control the water-shaped hammer to float in the air. One side of the water-shaped hammer is now frozen. What's the matter? Since this kid can take my blow head-on, it's okay. Sweat gathered on Solid's face. Ka. A pile of ice slag piled up, and then turned into a human form. The audience who saw this scene cheered. Even the head of the silver-winged vultures changed his face drastically. What kind of magic is this? Since I can take Solid's Dragon King's hammer intact. This newcomer is interesting. The king smiled slightly and returned to his position. The magic emperor followed behind and returned to his position. It's indeed beyond my expectation. Magic Emperor said. Impossible, why do you have nothing at all? You should be smashed to pieces now. Solid looked at Lin Hao with 10 disbelieving expressions. Lin Hao said with a cold smile, If ordinary people take this blow head-on, they may be smashed to pieces as you said, but unfortunately, I am not an ordinary person. Your attack is very powerful, but it's useless against me. 1.8, You pariah. Solid almost went crazy at this moment. Dancing Hands flipped grimoire, said, Water-binding magic, the cage of the sea. Bang bang bang. Around Lin Hao, a thick wall of water suddenly formed, surrounding him. And at this moment, white gas appeared on Lin Hao's body. A powerful cold air was released from his body. Zzz. The water around Lin Hao was frozen instantly.